The following podcast contains naughty language and ridiculous situations. Listener discretion is advised.
Well, with the Christmas season almost upon us, I would like to say that our Christmas is going to be starting early because we're going to be joined by someone who has not been on the show for about a year, and it's good to have him back. And who is that? Oh, you're going to find out in a few minutes. And also, we're doing a twofer today, like we always do during our December Cram Jam. So look forward to that. And so we're going to have a lot of fun here. Me, you, and everybody else. Welcome to Trick or Treat Radio.
Welcome all you little zombies. You're listening to Trick or Treat Radio, starring the Deadites.
Welcome to episode 385 of Trick or Treat Radio. Trick or Treat Radio is the world's most dangerous podcast. It's recorded in front of an undead studio audience here at Castle Wolfenstein and also at the Lair of Lost Swag within the Raven Chateau. In December, we discuss at least 2 films a week. We argue, we make fun of each other, and we do welcome old friends who we haven't had on in a while, although there is some dispute as to whether or not the live show counts. But, if we don't count that one in the regular continuity, this is his 13th appearance on Trick or Treat Radio. It might be the record. Just in time for Friday the 13th, we are welcoming our good friend from the Talk Without Rhythm podcast, El Goro.
What is up, my brothers? You couldn't see me, but I actually did a digital thumbs up to the triumvirate of thumbs up that we had over in the Raven Chateau. That was a good move, guys. I like that. That was a real Wonder Triplets Unite thing. It was pretty good.
That was the most bonding we've ever done in this room. Yeah.
To tell you the truth, I've never had a hand on Aries before, and it was almost kind of weird.
But it feels nice though, doesn't it?
Well, I'm not going to say it feels nice. It just feels weird.
Most of the time, if you try to put your hands on Aries, you're going to pull back a stump, man.
Yeah, normally, yes, which is why I never do it. I remember what happened at TGI Fridays.
Are his hands soft or calloused and rough?
Well, I only touched his thumb, but his thumb, it's a nice thumb.
It's a nice thumb.
There's a man's thumb.
Wow.
And for the record, Raven Shadow seems to have a nice thumb too.
Thank you.
Whoa, where was it?
Don't worry about it. No, it's nice. It was nice. It was important. It was very good. We shared a moment. We're ready. We're going to go live. I'm in a better place now. It's good.
As soon as the lights go on, you're in a better place.
Yeah. It's kicking in.
He's a professional, man. He's going to bring it to the show.
That's right.
And so far, nobody's talked about my thumbs yet, so I think I have something to worry about.
Well, you have your thumbs up your ass all the time, so I don't think anyone wants to touch them.
Really? Well, who would have guessed there'd be enough room where my head normally is?
But they were kind of like soft, yet also hard. It was very weird.
That's what she says. I'm the Ron Jeremy of thumbs.
Half chub thumbs, okay.
That's a good old MZ, half chub thumbs.
Yep. Thumb Jeremy.
Bad name.
Oh, man. So it is December double feature Cram Jam time, and on tonight's show, we're going to be talking about 2 films, and those 2 films are Antrum, the deadliest film ever made, and we will also be discussing In Fabric, the latest film from director Peter Strickland. So those are the 2 flicks we're going to talk about. We got El Goro in tow, and we got a bunch of other shit that we probably got going on. But let's first check in with Goro. Goro, what's been going on with you and Talk Without Rhythm?
Same as always, man. Just kind of keeping it going week to week. This last couple of weeks have been dedicated to Star Wars stuff. What with the Rise of Skywalker coming up in just over a week, or just about a week.
Yeah, we're actually moving the show next week because I'll be seeing it on Thursday. So yes, we are 1 week away.
There you go. And I figured the ending of the Skywalker saga was enough of an impetus to finally getting around to discussing the rest of the movies. The original trilogy has already been discussed on Talk Without Rhythm, but over the 10 years that we've been doing it, because we're coming up on that, we haven't ever talked about the prequel trilogies or any of the spin-offs other than Rogue One. So I figured it was finally time to kind of close the gap. So last episode, I did episode 1 and 2. Next episode, which will be coming out on Friday, which if you're listening to the podcast now, it's it'll be coming out the following Sunday. So if you're listening to the podcast on Friday, just wait a couple days. That one will be discussing episode 3 and Solo. And then the next episode after that will be episode 7 and 8 with a discussion of episode 9 available to my Patreon supporters. So lots of Star Wars.
Well, there you go. Yeah, and I got to ask. So you originally didn't have in the plans to do the holiday special, but apparently, apparently your listeners talked you into it.
Yeah, I had some call outs on the social media about not discussing the holiday special, even though we all know it's awful. And most Star Wars fans have seen it anyway. And even if they don't, they know it's terrible, but they always want somebody to talk about it. So I did a recording of the holiday special and threw it up on the Patreon. And also did the first of the Ewok movies, Caravan of Courage, with the next one coming next week.
Which one?
I figure if people actually want to pay for my podcast, I guess I should punish them by discussing the less good Star Wars.
Which one?
I'm not very good at this.
Which one held up better, the Ewok movie or the holiday special?
Hit or miss. I mean, the Ewok movie was certainly a better film. What the hell? I'm hearing things.
Oh,
what am I hearing?
That's probably me. Yeah, sorry.
I'm hearing the intro again.
Yeah, I pushed the I did a watch party on the group, so it started.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Caravan of Courage holds up as a better film, but I will say I still will go to bat for at least one element of the Star Wars holiday special, and that is the Jefferson Starship song, Light the Sky on Fire. That song fucking bangs. I don't care what you say. That song is awesome.
You know what? You're right. You're absolutely right. It really is a good song.
I mean, is it an appropriate Star Wars song? No, but it's now on my iPod because it's a badass song.
But it is a good song, and even though the visuals, I mean, because like half the band is completely bled out from the array of purple lights and auras that shine throughout the entire video. The song is good. It's I like the song. And like you said, it's definitely not a Star Wars song, and neither is the one from Diane Carroll for that matter.
That's true.
But Jesus, that fucking scene. But I mean, you can understand why they got Jefferson Starship in there. Yeah,
I mean they were a sci-fi themed band, and it kind of fits in. It was either you're going to go with Jefferson Starship or you're going to go with Blue Oyster Cult, and maybe Blue Oyster Cult would have done a better job, but Jefferson Starship still brought it, man. It was a good song, good performance.
Well, you know what? They had blue milk there. Why wouldn't oysters? So.
And you know what? I would be totally okay with B. Arthur being the bartender at the Mos Eisley Cantina.
Right?
I'm all right with that.
Who wouldn't be?
She's badass. She can handle herself in that cantina.
You could totally see her trading barbs with Han Solo. She fits. The song she sang didn't exactly fit, but the everything leading up to that, I'm down.
Well, that song that she sang, that was all done to the tune of the music that they were playing in there. So, but she definitely fits in there. She could deal with Greedo, I'm sure, without a problem. No problem.
Yeah. B. Arthur shoots first.
B. Arthur would shoot first.
Yeah.
And second and third.
No, I haven't seen the special in a long time, but all I can think about is B. Arthur from History of the World.
Yes.
Have you bullshit today?
Go
ahead.
I was just gonna say all I can think of is MZ watching that's the like Cirque du Soleil scene and doing and pantomiming what happened in Fabric when when they were messing with the mannequin.
Fuck you, dude. Okay, maybe a little, but
Deploying those half chub thumbs.
Yeah.
that whole acrobatic bullshit. That was just typical of late 70s variety shows.
Definitely.
And
that's the thing.
Marie to the Brady to the Brady Bunch variety.
Yeah. And that's definitely where the holiday special kind of lies in. It's one of those things that sometimes you forget because when you watch the film, it doesn't feel like it's specific to an era. I mean, Star Wars is timeless. But sometimes we forget it was very much the product of the 70s, and we got to see it run right into the 70s with the holiday special.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. I love watching it. I mean, because it is so bad.
Well, you do like bad stuff, so.
Yeah, well, I watched it over the weekend, so, I mean, I was enjoying myself. I was having a blast.
Oh, man. Watched The Mandalorian, right?
Oh, yeah.
Wait, did you fall asleep again, or did you make it through?
No. Here's the thing. So, I've been watching Mandalorian, and I fucking hate the prequels. I fucking do. And I have not seen them since theatrical.
I think you should rewatch them.
Here's the thing, Johnny. So I'm feeling masochistic the other night.
Okay.
Marion was sleeping. We watched Mandalorian, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna fucking just watch it, and not because they're any good, but I think there is some good political content in there. It just got lost in kind of shitty and overblown special effects and really bad dialogue. And I like the political stuff, but let me watch it now, focusing on that. So I jumped in on episode 2. Okay.
You jumped in on episode 2.
Yeah, I'm not going to watch episode 1 again.
Why?
Because it's really fucking bad. The only good parts are like when Qui-Gon and Kenobi use their sabers to like cut open the fucking.
There's a lot of decent in the first one.
There's
a lot of bad, but there's a lot of good and decent.
Shut your evil mouth.
Yeah, like the opening crawl and the end credits.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, it's a fucking lot of story in there.
Yeah, it's bad.
But no,
a lot of political intrigue.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm fucking drawing a blank. Darth Maul, he's a fucking great character. They didn't explore him enough.
He's not a great character, and I know people want to go, and he's some like Shakespearean Odessa or something. They want to like. Make him something.
Odesso Bendejo, motherfucker.
He's the guy that pushes the boulder up the hill, and that's his whole point. And Goro was much smarter than I am. You maybe know what I'm talking about, but
yeah, you're referring to Sisyphus. I got you, man.
yeah. Sisyphus, him.
Sisyphus.
Was he a Sisyphus lord?
Yes, he's a Sisyphus lord.
Yeah, they got a big fucking hard on for Boba Fett, who didn't do jack and shit through the movies he was in.
And I'm with you too.
You fucking hate Darth Maul.
No, I think he's a great look. He follows the great legacy of great characters that do nothing. I mean, the Mandalorian's the fucking Jon Favreau's fucking Mandalorian did more than Boba Fett did.
Well, yeah, in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah. So I'm trying to watch episode 2, and the Ben Kenobi stuff is good. I like Ewan McGregor is great, but more and more like it's really bad dialogue. And okay, I'm watching the rise of the whole no contest. And I'm digging that stuff. But what I don't understand is how the fuck and I forgot about this. So not only did Anakin build 3PO, but also 3PO and R2 were at the Lars fucking homestead.
Yeah.
And then 30 years later, Lars buys 3PO and R2 has no fucking idea.
The only thing I could think about that is that I mean, imagine if you got a car that's, and then you it's brand new and you see it, 19 years ago. And then you see it 19 years from now. It just looks like another car. I mean, people look at droids as just another piece of equipment.
And you know what? I'll even take it a step further. That it's not even a car. It's a car dealership. I mean, he deals droids, he bought 2 on that given day. Chances are every time oh my God, I'm such a bad Star Wars fan. The Jawas.
Yeah.
Every time they come through, he probably buys 2 or 3 droids. Like the turnover is unreal.
Yeah, but
so he would not remember.
I'll fucking remember my fucking 95 Mustang if I saw that thing on the fucking front yard. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean,
You'd be able to tell it apart from every other 95 Mustang that was ever made?
I made a lot of dents in that car. Bro.
Okay, that's fair. And I bet if he had held on to 3PO longer, he might have been able to recognize it.
There's a lot of protocol droids and there's a lot of R2 units.
Okay, so
I was just going to mention that. It's like, I mean, as far as we know, there's only one R2D2. There isn't like a slew of R2D2s. You know, there's a whole bunch of them with different names. You know,
right. I mean, there's different styles of the astromech droid.
I mean, I as far as I know, I've only seen two different kind of C-3POs. There's the bronze one or brass one, whatever you want to call it, and then there was the silver one that you see at the beginning of A New Hope.
Yeah, these got their own unique identifier, but there's a lot of R2 units. There's a lot of C3 units, but there's only one R2D2. There's only one C3PO, but there's thousands, if not millions, of other ones that look just like them and speak with the same voice,
same color scheme.
Well, not necessarily the same color scheme, but I mean they have different colors, but some of them match. There was the one at the beginning of New Hope. There was one on the Cloud City.
Yeah, there was a red, the red one, right?
No, he was also silverish, but he has C-3PO has a red arm in the other movie, so obviously there's a red version of them as well.
Yeah, you're right.
They are. I mean, someone mentioned cars, but they are kind of like cars because they're all modeled the same way, and they may have different paint jobs and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a fucking movie, Raven Shadow. You know that. You know,
it's a movie. It's a movie that everyone has been spending. It's a bad
for such a fan of Star Wars. You find lots of stuff wrong.
Wait, Wolfie, what are you busting his balls for?
I'm not busting his balls at all.
You got a whole entire podcast dedicated to this horse shit.
You know what? I'll give you a good example. I have a work truck. Yeah, it's a fleet vehicle. It looks identical to all the other trucks. I can find my truck in a lot that has 5 other identical trucks. I go to where there's 20, 30 trucks. I have trouble finding my truck. Although it is unique to me, still in that many trucks is very difficult for me to find it.
And no, I
there are many like it, but that one is
that one is mine. Yeah. But I get that. But also, it's fundamental bad writing in storytelling form. So we can buy that.
It's not bad writing.
It is bad writing.
Characters meet. That's what happens.
I mean, it is a little bit of sloppy writing insofar that it requires us to do the kind of mental gymnastics to justify it. It's not a hard gymnastics routine, but it still could have been handled a little bit more elegantly, which is you could say about a lot of the prequels. I mean, George Lucas is a great world builder. He's a great imaginer, and he's a great at pushing forward the technology of filmmaking, but he's not a very elegant story writer.
Because like even down to I'll buy that 3PO wouldn't tell about other encounters, right? Forget the fact that Anakin built him is absurd to me.
Well, they also wiped his memory at the end of episode 3.
Yes, they wipe, and he's a protocol droid. So when he's asked, even before seeing episode 3, when he's asked, I don't remember any Captain Antilles. Him being a protocol droid leads me to believe that he wouldn't give up secrets quickly. So I get even 3PO lying, much like Ben lied to Luke about his sister. But R2 was never wiped, and R2 was down with Luke. You don't think R2 might be like, yo, by the way, we were here before?
I think R2 has learned to keep his mouth shut, or else people are going to start wiping his memory.
But he loves Luke.
I know, but he doesn't trust humans, I think.
But I love Luke. Like he loves Luke like lamp. You know what I'm saying? Like Luke's his boy.
I don't know.
Is Luke even human?
It's Luke even.
What? Well, remember he had that thing going on with his wrist in Empire.
He got his hand cut off.
He had a cybernetic hand.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
He's not a fucking Transformer.
Yeah. Wow, this isn't like a little subplot here.
Yeah.
There's a major point in the movie.
Well, I know.
I'm pretty sure they made a Luke Skywalker Transformer. I seem to remember something like that.
Well, they made a Millennium Falcon one.
Yeah, right?
Yep. They did.
But also, don't forget, these droids didn't spend years with him. They met him for 5 minutes.
I'm not even saying I'm not saying the first 20 minutes of A New Hope, But I'm saying, how far?
No. When they dropped him, like they weren't hanging around with Ben, with Owen. How long were they there?
3PO was there because remember Anakin left him with his mother when he left the planet, and then Anakin picked him back up.
Okay, he did spend some time there.
Yeah, but I just think I just chalk that up to Anakin or Owen just not giving a shit about droids and not bothering to learn their names.
Yeah, it's a piece of machinery to him.
I don't know. There's a lot of significant events involved in those two fucking colorful characters.
No, you know what? Because look at a droid blew up. A droid died in front of them. They didn't care. They were like, okay, fuck him. Give me the blue one.
Yeah, the red one.
The red one blew up.
R4.
They didn't bat an eye.
Is it R5D4?
They're like, hey, what are you trying to do? Rip us off here?
I've seen the film.
What about the blue one?
Huh? It's machinery. They're pissed off that they bought a faulty car.
Yeah, it's just equipment to them. They don't see them as having personalities or.
Yeah.
See, there is a Luke Skywalker transformer.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I knew there was a TIE fighter. I knew there was a Millennium Falcon, and there's definitely a Death Star transformer. I know that.
And Luke can even drive his own transformer. What the hell? This is weird.
Is that the only gripe you had, Raven Shadow?
Oh, no, sir.
I am with you though. The storyline with Obi-Wan in Episode 2 is a lot of fun. It's just the problem is there's a second storyline going on. If it had just been, the fun pulp adventures of Obi-Wan trying to investigate the mystery of the clones, that movie would have been great. But they had to do the love plot, and Lucas isn't good at writing love stories.
That sucked. I hated that part of it.
You ever watch Howard the Duck?
I don't think he wrote that though.
Oh Jesus!
I don't think anyone wrote it. I think it just kind of happened.
It just kind of happened on its own.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Walk around, and that's the thing. Like my hate for the prequels is canon in the show, but I'm fucking trying, Johnny. Okay, with the smirk you give me, I no, because I know you're looking at me the way you're looking at me like that. But I'm trying. I couldn't do. I saw Episode 1 twice in the fucking theaters. By the way.
You hated it that much you had to go back and check? But now I'm really pissed off. You fell asleep, didn't you?
No. I saw it with at least most people in this room.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. With at least Wolfie, Aries, and a bunch of other motherfuckers. And then I figured, and I was see it with my mom because she took me to see the movies when I was a kid. I'm like, it's going to be awesome. Of course I'll see it again. Fuck. And I had to fake that I liked it, thinking that she might like it. And she fucking hated it. But I was trying to watch it. I'm trying to watch it just to try to see if I'm missing something. And I don't think I was.
I think you are. Because you know what? You're just going in it with so much negative, you're not being able to take out the good.
I'm trying.
Because these movies aren't unwatchable.
Pretty fucking close.
No.
I don't know about Clones, man. Clones was pretty bad.
I hated the love story aspect of it. But the Obi-Wan storyline, that was great.
He was good. I think some of the scenes went on way too long. Like they'd be like way too much. There was not enough breaks in it.
I think they were trying too hard.
Not enough smoke breaks.
There was the smoke break. I was smoking like a motherfucker downstairs. And even like how the effects don't quite hold up as much. And it's not necessarily a dig. It just seemed like it was too much. Just too
much CGI going on.
Yeah.
That was Lucas's downfall ultimately with that trilogy. It was just too much CGI, too much green screen, not enough,
Well, you know what he
not enough organic.
I think he misread what the original movies were, because what he did in those original movies was cutting edge, all the practical effects.
Oh, sure.
That was all cutting edge.
Great stuff.
Well, when the prequels came out, CGI, I mean, he was trying to do the cutting edge CGI for these movies, not realizing that it's not the cutting edge aspect of it. It was that practical effect was so good, where he should have just focused more on that. Now, that wouldn't have made the stories much better, but it would have made it visually better.
It would have, but it also would have been harder work as well. And I think if he stuck with that, it definitely would have paid off, because I think the CGI in the first trilogy, is horrendous. It's so overwhelming that it just the phoniness just comes through the more you see it.
Wait, in A New Hope?
No. I mean not the original trilogy. The first the
prequels.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
with that said, I'm gonna finish it. They haven't gotten to the battle yet. I will finish it, and I may get fucked up and watch episode 3.
Are you preparing for to do this on Bomba Radio?
Yeah. No,
Watching it in parts.
it's a big deal because Marion can come downstairs like, "You watching this?" And I'm like, "Yep." "This is bad." I'm like, "Yep." Gonna fucking see how this plays out. I'm fucking trying. There is a story.
Godspeed, sir.
There is a story there.
Well, El Goro, you watched all of them too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wrong, El Goro. How much older than you are? Tell me with smarter eyes.
No, I mean, just from my own perspective, Phantom Menace was a disappointment again, and it comes down to them trying to cram a little bit too much, and as such, kind of losing focus on things. The perfect example comes in the conclusion of the film, where the characters up to this point have been so thinly drawn that we aren't really invested them as characters. So the only investment we have in the finale is in the spectacle. The only problem is the most visually spectacular thing going on, which is the lightsaber duel between Darth Maul, Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan. They keep cutting away to Anakin fighting droids in space, or the Gungans fighting droids on the planet, or Padme going through and trying to infiltrate the palace. Each of those would have worked. I mean, because we can look at Return of the Jedi and show that they were able to manage 3 different narratives in their finale, but they had the advantage there of actually having us care about those characters. We cared about Han and Leia on Endor. We cared about Luke fighting Darth Vader. We cared about Lando because he was a smooth motherfucker and he was flying the Millennium Falcon. We didn't care about those other characters, and so every time they cut away from the lightsaber fight, you just wanted to get back to it. And that's,
Yeah.
I think, the biggest problem you can point to Phantom Menace is because they were so focused on building a world, they forgot to build characters. Now, by the time Attack of the Clones had come around, they had shifted a little bit. It's a much slower film, doesn't try to cram as much plot in. And as such, we get room for characters like Obi-Wan to really shine. The problem is he tried to build characters between Anakin and Padme, and he didn't have the writing chops to pull that off. And I do blame Lucas on that. I blame his writing and his directing because I know Natalie Portman is a good actress. I don't know what Hayden Christensen is capable of because sadly I've only ever seen him in Star Wars movies. But it seems to take a lot to make Natalie Portman put in a performance as bad as she did in that film.
Just so stoic and yeah.
Now, I did pick up more on the Dooku plot. Next.
You said Dooku.
I like the Dooku. But no, and that was cool. I like the fact that I thought he was the Sith. He was like a former Jedi. He like went away to he wanted to have a family. Something along those lines.
I thought you said you were down with the backstory.
What do I know?
They definitely could have done a better job of fleshing him out, but at the same time, Christopher Lee is just so good at elevating any material he's in. I've seen him in some truly awful Italian movies, but he's still the best part in them because he's Christopher Lee.
He owns whatever scene he's in.
Yeah, for sure.
But you know what?
Dude used to knife Nazis to death. He owns everything.
Well, was there a quote where someone was telling him how to do like a sword fight? And
Yeah, it was when he was doing, if I remember correctly, it was when his death scene in Return of the King. And Peter Jackson says, all right, so we're going to need to make a sound like you're getting stabbed. You'll have to try to imagine. It's like, oh, dear, I don't have to imagine what that sounds like.
Where's that movie?
Right?
Where's the Christopher
Still waiting
Lee?
for the shit to get all declassified so we get to know exactly what he did.
Lucas make that fucking
No,
someone else. Yeah.
Carando.
There you go.
Get Von Trier to direct it.
Jesus Christ.
Get Michael Fassbender to play Christopher Lee.
We know that's fucking pretty good.
Right?
I just want to add one more thing to one of the problems with the climax to Phantom Menace is I have this problem with most prequels is you already know the outcome to the story, so there's no tension. You know every character that's going to survive.
Yeah, that's always a problem. Well, that's always a problem.
I mean,
when it
granted,
comes to-
most Hollywood movies, the star is going to survive, but it's always
prequels.
ooh, maybe this is the one where they're going to kill off the star, and it's. But you know what? Obi-Wan has to survive. Anakin has to survive. Padme has to survive. The only one that probably could die It was the one you were hoping was going to die. It was Jar Jar. It's.
I still think you can have stakes, because obviously we everyone knows without those characters, then there's no New Hope. So, but I don't think that paints him too much into a corner, because I still think you can do some interesting things, in that story alone of it really is all about how he became Darth Vader. So, and there's some gratifying bits, but yeah, it definitely falls short. And there's a lot of hate about those films, and I would never dispute someone for thinking that, but I think there is enough good in them, kind of like Darth Vader. There's some good in him, and I haven't revisited them in a long time. Like, I don't think I may not have even seen them since they left theaters. Like, right. That's how long we're talking. I saw them like at least 2 or 3 times in the theater, so. It's been a while, but so I don't have a great memory about them, but there's enough good stuff in there that I think made it gratifying. But yes, it ultimately is a failure because it doesn't live up to the original trilogy, despite having some cool moments and some like cool lightsaber battle here or there, cool space battles, whatever. Like, I love the scene in I think it's Attack of the Clones when. In that arena, we have all the Jedis fighting. That's something I've wanted my whole childhood. It was to see something like that, So I think it does hit some of the high spots, but ultimately it's as to use another podcast rating system, Goro. It's not a 5-star match, that's for sure.
No, not so much.
Yeah. Any more grievances, Raven Shadow, you want to get off your chest here?
I got fucking some general grievances, I'll tell you that much. But, asthmatic robot. You got to watch the cartoon to really get how cool he was. No, I'm not going to watch the fucking cartoon, dog. I'm going to fucking watch the fucking movie when he wasn't asthmatic. But no, that's fine. If you're bedridden and you enjoyed the films, that's great. It's once again, it's I did not like them. If someone liked them, then hey, that's great. But I tried watching it, Johnny, and I'm going to finish it. I'm probably got I haven't seen the arena battle yet, so I'll finish that one, and I might try part 3 again.
Evil Corny says Hayden Christensen is good in Life as a House.
He plays a house? Wow.
Good to know.
That boy's good.
Hayden Christensen as the house.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm taking it back to a positive because I know this makes people's hurts your feelings, Johnny. I'm so excited with The Mandalorian that it makes me get hungry for Star Wars again.
Oh, yeah? That's why you're seeking it out, huh?
Yeah.
But you're seeking out movies that you know you hate.
Well, maybe
maybe he's trying to look at him with
he isn't though. He is
fresh perspective.
No, he's going in there hating these and looking to hate them.
No,
you're not looking to find the positive out of these.
No. Much like Johnny, I was trying to find the good without the conflict.
No, you're not though. You're really not.
There is no conflict.
I was trying.
Oh, because you're going in negative, like right off the bat with these movies.
But I went in on my own, freely and on my own will.
Yeah, but negatively.
Well,
you were like, these fucking movies suck. I hate them, but I'm going to watch them. That's how you did that.
Yeah,
but that's the wrong way to go into any movie.
Fucking A, dude. I'm fucking trying, Johnny.
You're not trying.
El Goro was going to come on. He likes Star Wars.
Raven Shadow, do or do not. There is no try.
All right, well, then not.
You can't let the hate flow through you.
Yeah.
Battlefield, and it's a frustrating fucking out.
Do you drink a Colt 45 while you watched them?
Oh, I should have. No, I was
let the Colt 45 flow through you.
It does. I really thought Luke was going to show up in those fucking Endor movies, dude. I'm like, this is the continuation of fucking Jedi. There was no internet back then.
Wow.
I'm like, of course Luke has to show up.
At least he had the decency to show up in the holiday special. He won't even show up in the Endor movies.
Well, contractually obligated. Harrison Ford didn't do it because of the script.
Goro, did you watch both Ewok movies yet, or just the one?
Just the one. I'll be talking about the second one next Wednesday. So I haven't gotten to Wilford Brimley yet.
I forgot he was in that.
I haven't seen those movies in a long ass time.
You know what I marked out for, though, was the Droids cartoon in the 80s. And
yeah.
Yeah, I was disappointed that didn't make it on Disney Plus.
Right? Like, because there was two. There was like the droids were under the ownership of, there was a tag team. One guy had like half of his head shaved and like long flowing red hair, and this other boy was kind of lumpy.
Oh, you're
And
talking about Lumpy now.
The Wookiee?
Yeah.
No, like pudgy. Like he had a lot of snacks in there.
Okay,
Far away. And then there was one that was a race car guy with a red jacket. I had the figures. They were kind of cool toys. And actually, the droids toy line had the first one with a lightsaber that had like the, what do you call it when you press the button and it comes out?
Telescoping?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Spring loaded.
Spring
Yeah,
loading.
like-
That's the one.
And I had that.
Why are you looking at me like that? I hate it when you wear those fucking glasses. I can't see your eyes.
Right. They're behind the glasses.
Yeah, I know that.
Poke him out.
Glasses.
Now, do they is on Disney Plus? Is the holiday special on Disney Plus?
No.
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 I don't want to acknowledge
No,
that.
the way, and
just
neither are the
to kill
Ewok, neither are the Ewok movies. The way I think they're doing it is they're only putting the stuff up there that they acknowledge as part of the continuity. So no droids, no Ewoks, no Ewok movies. Maybe one day.
Yep. But you can watch the.
but the holiday special is part of the canon because
I know,
it-
right? They mentioned it in Mandalorian.
Well, no, it doesn't. Not because it introduces, because they mentioned something that happened in The Mandalorian.
Yeah, they mentioned Life Day, so maybe it is now.
Or maybe Jon Favreau got his wrist slapped for mentioning that.
It's possible.
Well, there's a few references to it, especially the plasma rifle that the Mandalorian has
That's true.
first made its debut in the Boba Fett cartoon from Star Wars special.
Just because it debuted and they're bringing it into the Mandalorian doesn't mean that brings the show into the continuity.
True, but there is. I mean, and I guess they can mention Life Day without referencing the holiday special, but still, there's a few references.
If they mentioned what, Stinky and Inky and Blinky, who was Chewbacca's kids?
Lumpy.
Bumpy.
Oh.
And Itchy was his father, who was watching the fantasy porn.
Yeah, and Mala was Mala's his wife.
Yeah. Shit. Mala.
You okay
You
with
don't see Harvey Korman in The Mandalorian, do you?
That would take some doing. I'm pretty sure he's dead.
Yeah.
Hey, they do amazing things with CGI and holograms now.
That's
so.
true. I mean, they spent a lot of money in order to resurrect Peter Cushing, so maybe they can spend it comparable enough to bring back Harvey Korman.
Oh, how great would that be?
And they could de-age him too.
Right?
Yeah. Teach everybody how to use that fucking computer thing on the.
You're far too trusting.
All right. Well, I think that's it might be enough Star Wars talk. If you guys want to hear more, you can go check out El Goro's podcast or my other podcast, Force Insensitive, where we're breaking down The Mandalorian. Do you guys playing a drinking game every time I mention the other podcast?
I don't know. MZ's going to die. I don't know what the hell's going on around here.
No, I'm just referencing what Raven Shadow said about Cushing. You're far too trusting.
Yeah, my file one ready.
You're far too trusting.
What the hell is that?
I don't know how.
MZ's doing this weird pantomime when he does it.
I know he doesn't do it in the movie, but the way he says it, you would think that he would do that like hand gesture.
Very flamboyant, very like,
You're
yeah.
far too trusting.
You idiots, you've captured their stunt double.
Now, see, that would be great.
Oh yeah,
That would be
Goro. You gonna cover Spaceballs?
I think we may have already done that.
Oh,
I don't know. I have to look it up. I don't remember the stuff we've done. We haven't discussed
Or how about-
Spaceballs yet. Shit.
Turkish Star Wars.
Oh, you should team it
God.
up with Turkish Star Wars.
We've already done the best Turkish movie once, and I think pretty sure that Wolfie was on that show.
Yeah. Oh, Turkish Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Did we talk about this here? Or did I dream it? The fact that with Spaceballs, they got the approval to do the parody, but the one thing they couldn't do was do merchandising.
Yeah.
And that's why we never saw that. That's why they did the fake stuff in there.
Yeah, that's why.
They
Yeah,
couldn't.
yeah.
All right.
Merchandising. I hope Mel Brooks makes Spaceballs 2 before we lose him.
That'd be nice.
I know there was a lot of talk about it for when Force Awakens came out. So you never know. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we'll be talking more Star Wars, and also if anyone is interested, we always do our annual. Well, I guess it's annual. Whenever there's a Star Wars movie, we do our Star Wars spoiler-filled discussion, and this year is no different. We'll be doing that on Saturday, December 21st, at probably around 8 p.m. We haven't settled on the time, but if you guys get a chance to see Rise of Skywalker on the Thursday prior to opening day, or an opening day, or even just earlier that day, and you want to join us for a spoiler discussion, go ahead and check out trickortreatradio.com. It'll be available live 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on December 21st. So give that a look. And obviously you guys over there are welcome, but I know you guys probably won't see it. So, or at least not in time.
Well, yeah, I'm going to see it on my birthday. Yeah.
So.
On my life day.
On your, yeah. So that should be fun, though. So it'll be, I think it's going to be the boys from Force Insensitive. We'll probably have a few other folks. We just finally settled on it like yesterday, so I haven't had a chance to reach out to anyone else yet. But we will do that. So that should be fun. And I guess I want to start kind of winding things down, because I want to get into these films. I think there's a lot to talk about. We got 2 films. We got a very smart critic. I know he's going to poo-poo that, but
I ain't a critic.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me.
I was talking about Aries.
Oh yeah.
And
Totally.
we have El Goro.
Wow.
I got to give Aries props. He has gotten better with his breakdowns of films. Not that he was bad, but I think
You do a really good job.
I think that he's able to sort of contribute a lot to the conversation these days, and I like that. And he just flipped Ravenshot off.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So I guess let's start to wind things down. So if people want to go ahead and support the show, they can head on over to patreon.com/trickortreatradio, and there we have some exclusive content. If you guys want to help support the show, you can do so for as little as $2. I want my $2, Raven Shadow.
Yes.
So you guys can check that out, patreon.com/trickortreatradio. And also, I know a lot of you guys are using Amazon for gift purchasing. You're going to get some gift cards. Go ahead and use our Amazon affiliate link. Go to trickortreatradio.com, scroll down, look for the Amazon logo, click on it, and it's going to bring you to Amazon. Input our affiliate link. Everything you purchase in that session gets attributed to us. Doesn't cost them any extra, Michael Ravenshadow.
That's another way to help keep the lights on.
That's right. So you guys can do that. Also on trickortreatradio.com, we have a store. Click store. We got digital content, volumes 1 through 3 of the greatest hits of Trick or Treat Radio, and some other goods. So give it a look and help support. And also, if you guys aren't able to support monetarily, or even if you are, we would love to get some new reviews as well. So Apple Podcasts, you can go ahead, give us a 5-star review and leave a few words, let people know what you dig about the show. And if you guys ever want to reach out to us, you can do so, podcast@trickortreatradio.com. We've got a few voicemail to get to this evening so far. If you're listening live, there's still time to get one in if you're interested. And let's see, any other housekeeping? And also coming up, we got a few more weeks until we do this, but we have the end of the year is coming up, and that means top 13 lists. So you guys, you've been thinking a little bit about the top 13 list?
Oh yeah,
Oh, MZ has.
I have.
All
It's
right.
gonna get. This one's gonna be. This is probably gonna be the toughest year. that I
Really?
can- yeah.
Wow.
This is gonna be very tough.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, I guess we'll get into it then, but for me, there's no clear-cut winner as of right now, but in years past, there was like a couple that jumped out at me, so, but there was a lot of crap in this year, but there's also a lot of good stuff too, so. And
Oh yeah. I agree.
Yeah. And Goro,
lot of-
you do some year-end stuff too as well, don't you?
Yeah, and this year we're actually going to do it a slightly different way because it's going to be our 500th episode and also the 10-year anniversary of TWARP. So what we're going to be doing, I'm actually going to have the original co-host of the podcast, the Cancer Man, on, and we're going to run down our favorite films of the decade.
Nice.
So
yeah,
should be fun.
Decade's coming to a close. That's a good way to look at it.
Now, is that like movies you reviewed or just movies that came out in the last decade?
It's just going to be movies that came out in the last decade, though. A fair number of them, as I'm assembling my list, are stuff we've discussed on the show. So it should be fun.
Yeah, that should be a good time. So keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out for ours. We always drop ours on New Year's Day. So on the 1st, you can look for that. And we may tie in our exclusive Patreon content in January with that and maybe do some extended stuff for the year end. So if you guys have ideas, feel free to let us know. I'd love to hear from you guys about that. But now I want to hear from Michael Ravenshadow, and I want to hear what he did to prepare for this week's double feature Cram Jam.
Well, first thing I did was I broke Plex again.
It's not fucking untrue. Listen, it wasn't my fucking fault, Johnny. I had some fucking problems. I'm in a bad fucking mood. Goro, I'm sorry, man. Listen.
You're good, man. Just use that energy.
I know we do what we need to hang out. I've been thinking about that. I think that
Are you gonna drive to Ohio? Because I know you sure as fuck don't know where it is.
America, okay?
Yeah, Ohio's a big state. Ohio's bigger than this state, and you probably couldn't find my house right now.
I've been there before. I mean, why would I know where Ohio is? I mean, what the fuck? I mean, no, but we can meet in the middle, right?
Sure. What's in the middle?
Yeah, what's in the middle?
Baltimore, right?
No. But you guys can come hang out with me.
What's that?
But you guys can come hang out with me. That's fine.
That'd be so nice.
I'm guessing that New York is probably in the middle.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Wait. Give me a map. Bring me a map.
In a straight line, it might be water. It might be one of the Great Lakes.
Yeah. But halfway you head out towards western New York, maybe around is Buffalo out that way?
Yeah, I think I remember seeing the exit, so it's somewhere in there.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know where Ohio is, but I know it's not in New York, right?
It is a little bit.
Ohio is
definitely not in New York. It's not in New York, but it's near New York.
What time is it?
I mean, there might be a city called Ohio, New York. Who knows?
Oh my fuck.
That's true.
Yeah. Albany, and fucking I think the Bronx, and then Ohio, New York.
Wolf, you see what you do with your horse shit?
I don't know a lot about geography.
Why is he getting blamed for this?
Yeah. Because he asked him, Ravenshadow, what do you do to prepare for this move?
I think about hanging out with El Goro. I think that'd be nice. And I think you would like it more than you think you would. And I think don't believe the lies about me. And I think that you might, if we were hanging out together, because Goro's watching me. And I think that you might do some bad stuff with me too that you might feel better about. And kind of let loose a little bit and indulge in some things. And that'd be fine. Maybe I could learn something from you.
What are you gonna learn from him?
Fucking smart shit, man.
Like grow a real beard?
What the fuck, man?
Shit. You can't even learn simple shit.
I'm gonna go skip ahead of the class. I'm like fucking that show with fucking the dude from fucking
Screech?
No, wrong fucking show. What? No.
I don't know.
No, this is bad. This is a bad thing. I'm upset too. It's been snowing a lot.
I've been making some money.
Yeah, well, I'm not fucking Plex. I'm upset.
It's all better. I fixed it.
Aries had helped me, but it's so cold. I'm shoveling all the time. Waking up early. My fucking hair's curly. Wish I was in bed watching Laverne and Shirley.
Oh my god! How long did you come up? How long did it take you to come up with that one?
2 minutes ago, and then I strapped on.
The following message is a paid advertisement for the Cult of Muscle podcast. The Cult of Muscle. You're either in it or you're dead.
It's the dawning of a new age. The halls of Valhalla have been shuttered. The heroes of yore have either retreated to the shadows or taken to capering for the amusement of the small folk, their past glories a distant memory. The barbells have been torn from their once puma-strong grips, the beards shorn from their square jaws, only to be transplanted onto flannel-clad, puny weaklings with fingers barely powerful enough to strum a ukulele. The time has come, my brothers, to restore order from the chaos. No longer will our heroes be forgotten. No longer will their great deeds be viewed through a foggy lens of irony. Hear now our rallying cry as we scream it from the mountaintops, as we bellow it from iTunes and Libsyn and Facebook. It's time to join the cult, my brothers. So don your cloaks and enter the cult of muscle.
I'm Mike Allred. For the gidgiest listening experience, you gotta check out Trick or Treat Radio.
Oh, delicious nerds. Ms. M knows you like to chat it up with other sexy shut-ins about comics, movies, video games, and your favorite TV shows. If that sounds like you, cuddle up to the Trick or Treat Radio Facebook group, or the FIB. That stands for Fan Interaction Board. Just go to Facebook and search for Trick or Treat Radio and have more fun than a Jedi at a lightsaber sale. Not enough? Watch us on YouTube, The Deadites TV, all one word. Last but not least, check out the world's most dangerous talk radio show, Trick or Treat Radio, at trickortreatradio.com.
Trick or Treat Radio, man. That's where it's at. That's the new Fangoria Radio.
Back on Trick or Treat Radio.
Oh, hello.
All right.
It's a shake bottle you got there, Wolfie.
What's up?
It's a shake bottle you got there.
I got my smoothie, man.
Good stuff, man.
Yep.
Protein.
Hard to eat during these long podcasts, you know?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, first up, we are going to talk about Antrum, the deadliest film ever made. Now, this film is from, originally got some festival viewings in 2018, but it came out this year, 2019. And it is 95 minutes. It is a horror film, and it is written and directed by David Amito and Michael Licini. And it stars Nicole Tompkins, Rowan Smith, Dan Istrate, and Circus Shalusky.
I'm guessing, yeah.
Is that really someone's name?
I'm guessing it's Circus.
Yeah, but I like Circus.
Yeah, Circus works too, especially with the character he played.
Yeah, exactly. And if you were to give this a subgenre, this would definitely be in the found footage subgenre. And the synopsis, a young boy and girl enter the forest to dig a hole to hell. Said to be a cursed film from the late 70s, Antrum examines the horrifying power of storytelling. Now, this is a film I originally heard about a year ago. We actually got invited to a film festival that we weren't able to attend, unfortunately. But this was one of the films that they were featuring, and so we kind of read a write-up about it, and that was one that I sort of jotted down. I'm like, yeah, we definitely got to do this when this comes out. And I think it was actually, Goro actually hit me to the fact that this came out, because I'd been tracking it and trying to keep up with when it was going to come out, and I just never saw anything, and it just kind of squeaked out on VOD.
Yeah, and this is one that I've been keeping an eye on for quite some time, that I remember when the first trailer went out. And much like you, it was just a good enough concept for a film that I wanted to keep my eye onto it. And it segued very neatly into a particular subgenre of horror that I really enjoy, the idea of the cursed media, the thing that by watching it or reading it or just experiencing it, you die or go insane. I like that sort of thing, so I was very excited to see it played out as a film.
And the funny thing is, we'll get a little bit deeper into it when we start talking about it in Fabric, but there's definitely a lot of similarities, if you will, to these films.
Sure.
or not. I shouldn't say a lot of similarities, but there is definitely like a common thread, if you will. So, all right. So Antrum, and also I know I meant to mention this a couple weeks prior, but our friends over at Broke Horror Fan have they worked out a deal where they were able to release this on VHS. So if you guys wanted to get a copy of this is, to me, seems like kind of the perfect VHS film because it has that kind of fidelity. So I think this would be awesome on VHS. And so I don't know. I know they do limited runs, but if you guys are interested, you can check out Broke Horror Fan and see if they have any copies of Antrum left. I'm actually going to look and see if there's any, just to see, because I know they do limited runs.
Mm.
And it's got a really cool box art as well, and it says it's available. I can't see a place to actually buy it. So, it's on another site. That's why. Okay. So I'll find out if this is available. But let's get in and start talking about this. So I'm actually curious. I don't want to put you on the spot, MZ, but I'm curious because I know you're a fan of found footage. And also, when I first saw this flick, I thought this was going to be right up your alley. So I'm curious to get your initial thoughts.
Well, I don't really consider this.
Talking to the mic.
I am talking into the mic. I'm right here.
Your initial words were not into the mic.
Oh, for Christ's sake. My mouth is right here, for Christ's sake. Continue. Be quiet.
Oh, wow.
I didn't consider this a found footage film. To me, found footage film indicates, lost footage discovered. This is just a film about a movie, which this movie itself, it just happens to be cursed. It's never lost or anything.
Well, no. Well, it wasn't lost, but it was put away. So it is found.
Yeah, it's one of those things that in the strictest definition, you probably could count this as found footage, insofar that the film was believed to be lost for the longest time, and the producers, quote unquote, found it. The problem is that when we use the phrase found footage, that immediately brings to mind in the audience a set of expectations. The idea that the illusion that what we're purporting to see is real, that it was filmed by regular people or a documentary crew or stuff like that. So it's technically found footage, but I don't know if I would use that descriptor, if only because it would make people go in expecting something like Blair Witch Project, when it's not. It's a film that was supposedly made in the 70s, and it's presented like that, but it's not like anything you would imagine like Blair Witch.
And that's a fair distinction, yeah.
Because in the mockumentary, the at the beginning of the film, of the mockumentary, it's said that the film was shown
one time.
Let's see,
4 times, I think.
Yeah, it was definitely shown more than. I think it was like 3 or 4 times.
They said it was shown to several festival organizers that didn't book it, and then they all ended up dead. It was shown at a film festival, but then the entire theater caught on fire, and then it was shown once in San Francisco, but somebody laced the popcorn with LSD, and everybody had riots. So it's never been successfully shown to a wide audience anywhere.
Which is a really interesting way of showing a movie, is lacing popcorn with LSD.
That's how I wish we saw episode 1, I'll tell you that much.
Right? That pod race would have been amazing.
Or terrifying.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But the opening that you have here with the mockumentary, I love mockumentaries, and I think they did a really good job here of making it. You got to make it unsettling.
And I was kind of getting tense too. Like I was watching that with the lights off, me and Ollie, and when they were showing the old like demon footage. The old
silent movies.
Yeah,
beginning.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it starts off with Haxon, which is already a great choice to start off with.
Of course, you would know exactly which movies are being played at the beginning.
He's talked about Haxon a bunch.
Haxon's great.
That was Haxon?
Yeah.
Haxon Jackson.
Couple of scenes that the first couple
Jackson.
That's
Jim
the
Duggan?
movie I want.
the first couple of scenes that they showed was Haxon. There's a few other, there's a bunch of different other ones, but Haxon was primarily shown.
Michael Haxon.
It has the advantage of being in the public domain, so it's easy enough to source it for a low-budget film, and it's appropriate for what they're doing.
It's almost it's almost 100 years old at this point.
Yep.
Jeez, but I was kind of watching that with the lights off, and kind of getting moved. And I was kind of all in. I didn't know. Once again, I didn't know anything about the flick aside from like Johnny's synopsis the previous week. So I didn't even know if they would even show the fucking movie. So I was just kind of along for the ride, and I was kind of unsettled going into it in a good way.
Yeah, they do a really good job of sort of setting the tone for it. And that's where, again, the film kind of blurs the line with the found footage genre. Because, again, the essential conceit of found footage is what we're seeing is real. We know it's fake, but, that's the illusion they're trying to make. And by making this sort of mockumentary footage, they're flirting with that illusion of reality as well, that they're setting our expectations that this may indeed be something dangerous. We know it's fake. We know this is just a fictional film, but so much of horror is about trying to set aside our preconceptions, set aside our expectations. And in the early going, I think Antrum is very, very good at evoking that kind of vibe.
And I especially like, and the makers of this film go one step further by giving you a 30-second point where they say, and they give you a disclaimer saying, if we're giving you a fair shot, if you don't want to see this, shut it down now. Otherwise, your life is in your hands.
And that was cool. And taking it back to how can you make a prequel suspenseful? We know this is a film, but like it was almost done like it was shown to a theater. After talking about how one theater burned down, one theater was laced with LSD, resulting in the death of a pregnant woman. And it's almost like we were all in a theater like together, and it was given that this will happen, and it gives the timer. And I'm like, oh,
well, especially since they also talk about that there was extra footage inserted into the movie.
Yeah,
that they don't know how it got there, why it's there, where it's from, but give you no other description of this footage. But when it pops up in the movie, you're like, oh my god, is this?
Yeah.
Am I gonna die?
This
like, it is disturbing. This stuff that pops up. I don't want to talk about it too much, but like they say there's footage in there, so you're expecting random things are gonna pop up, but when it pops up, it's fucking creepy.
Yeah.
And it feels dangerous. That's the thing is I think they did a great job of setting this up because, even though that this is a fucking movie, it's that suspension of disbelief. And if you do a good job and you're engaged, it takes you completely out of kind of your real world bubble and into this movie. And I think they did a believable job of conveying that. And especially like you said, with that 30-second countdown, we can't be held responsible if you continue to watch beyond this point. Like little things like that I thought were really well done. And so And I'm glad that there wasn't. I thought this whole movie was going to be sort of just a mockumentary, and they're not really showing much of the footage.
Yeah.
But I'm glad the way they presented it because they did just enough to set it up, and then here you go. Now you watch it.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically the modern equivalent of the introduction to Universal's Frankenstein, where you have the guy coming out saying, just a word of friendly warning. And it sets the audience's expectations of, hey, what you're going to see, this is outside of our control. Have fun.
And it's kind of like what I do like about found footage films, even though a lot of them are rather bad, is that how they're going to make this work. And you can't fall back on the usual storytelling. So I was like, I didn't know where the punchline was going to come with this. So I'm kind of waiting for it. And it opens up with a fucking dog.
I know. I guess as long as they got it out of the way. But yeah, it was sort of the means to an end. It was sort of like what began their journey, So I get it. It needed to be something impactful. so I get that. But yeah, it was like, come on.
But at least in that, it wasn't just for shock value.
Yeah.
That it actually
There's a
lingered
whole-
upon the emotional devastation that the loss of a pet brings about.
Yeah,
And
and
goddamn,
without that, you wouldn't have a movie.
Exactly. I mean, it sets in motion everything that happens. And goddamn, that is the worst mother in the world.
Oh, no. That was a dream. That was a dream.
What, where the kid said, is the dog in heaven? No, she was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's going to hell.
That's realized to be a dream.
But it would have to be real, because why else would they try to dig a hole to hell?
Well, no, because the sister is humoring the boy.
Well, true. But the kid still thinks that it's an hell. I mean, obviously, when we see it's the dream, because we have the weird surrealistic imagery that goes in there. But you have to believe that the mother probably said something like that.
Yeah.
Well,
I just think that's just the child's his thought process, that
his projection on it.
For whatever reason, that he just thinks this dog needed to go to hell, and the sister is trying to help him through this.
I don't know. Was it a dream though? I don't know if I got that.
I got that.
Yeah, it was
Trust me.
it was a dream.
Johnny.
Oh, wait.
Trust
me.
He looks at the camera.
Yeah.
He's not even paying attention to you until he hears you go, Johnny, and then just go, yeah, whatever.
yeah, whatever, Raven Shadow.
And again, without going too deeply into the plot, just kind of talking about the mechanics of the film, what did you guys think about the look of the actual Antrum film? Because, this is purporting to be a film from the 1970s. We've seen a lot of films kind of do a digital degrading to try to capture an older aesthetic. Do you think they managed to pull off the look of a 1970s film in this?
I think that, you know what, I'm a little torn about it. There's one side of me that says, you know what, this is exactly how it looks. There aren't moments in the film in which the film is so the film is so degraded, provided that we believe that this is a real movie. There aren't parts in the film that the footage is so degraded that it really starts to it gets to the point where it kind of looks like something from Grindhouse, where you can see a lot of it, but there are moments in the movie where the film really degrades bad because it's played over and over and over and over again. At the same time, because I think that looks fantastic. At the same time, I'm not sure if it would look like that. I'm playing with this in my head. I still don't know.
Well, this film wouldn't look like it's been played over and over again, because it hasn't been played over and over again.
That's the point I was going to make, is because it's been played maybe 2, 3, 4 times at most.
True, but if it was improperly stored, it could still cause damage like that. Plus,
deterioration, dirt.
It still should look bad. To me, this movie looked like a movie from the 70s that was restored digitally.
Yeah.
It had the old feel, but it wasn't as dirty as it should have.
But
it started out that way with the flickering of the obvious film. Anyone that's seen an actual film be played, you see that flicker of just random things happen and different cues pop up. But once that disappears, it is obviously an older movie. Well, appears to be an older movie, but it more seems restored than anything.
You might be right. You might be right about that, because as gritty as it looks, and it looks real gritty, and it looks really, really good, there is one thing that's missing from a film that would be made to look like this, and that's cigarette burns.
No, they were in there. They were in there.
They were.
Were they?
Yeah, they popped up a few times.
Yep.
What impressed me is that I'm going to assume that the actual filmmakers, that they shot this digitally, because operating under a lower budget. However, whatever filter they used, whatever After Effects, in order to give it that shot on film, specifically, it looked like it was shot on 16 millimeter. It had that kind of grimy look to it, that sort of faded out image that you get from shooting on 16. That kind of Evil Dead look. It looked, whatever filter they used, it was very, very convincing. I mean, I look for stuff like that. I look for those things that you could tell just in how shots are held and how shots are actually composed. They seemed to go out of their way to try to capture the visual aesthetic of the 1970s, which is more than just applying a filter. It's how you construct a shot. It's how long you hold a take. It's a lot of different elements that go into it. And I think they did a good job with that.
And it's the credits as well. And even like one touch I really liked was having what I think was Russian credits.
Yeah, Cyrillic.
Yeah, which I thought that was a really nice touch, because that means that, like this was a version of it that was found in another country or something like that,
Well, and it also serves as an additional level of obfuscation, because it's assuming most of the audience can't read Cyrillic, so we don't know who directed this film. We don't know who the crew members were.
Yeah.
We don't know the names of the actors. It's interesting that in the credits that we get the character names of Aurelie and Nathan, but we don't know the actor names of them.
Yeah.
Which really gives it a much, much seedier and much more underground feel, which makes it just that much more intense and more creepy.
And that was kind of why when they said it opened in a Budapest theater, I figured it was kind of a foreign film.
Sure.
I thought so. I thought so at first too.
You know what I mean? So and it was huge. It was huge to add to that aura of misdirection, a gimmick they carried through to the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that it was pretty effective. Now, in terms of the actual film, Antrum, the film, I think it had some interesting things. I don't want to talk too much about it, because I think this is one of those, it's good to go in cold and not know a ton about it. I don't want to give too much in the way of spoiler either. But, I think this one, I think aside from the aesthetic, it looks the part, it feels the part, and they've already set up this sort of mystique about it prior with the introduction. So I think it had a lot going for it. And, I think Goro said it, is that this felt like a 70s movie. That's what they were going for, and the pacing and everything. So I don't think it was a failing of a script if you don't like it. I think it's just what it's supposed to be. And I think at times it's a little slow and draggy, but otherwise I feel it was pretty effective throughout.
Yeah, it was interesting, their approach, because even John Carpenter spoke of this when he did Cigarette Burns, which was something that they even mentioned in the mockumentary section, which deals with the idea of a cursed movie, La Fin Absolue du Monde. In behind the scenes, he talked about how do you show something that's so terrible that it drives people insane. And you can do it with a barrage of unsettling imagery, and Antrum kind of dipped into that with the weird black and white footage that was spliced in that clearly wasn't part of the real film. It felt like something more contemporary that was cut in. But what they decided to do, instead of going with the visual assault, was to try to build kind of a slow burn, unsettling approach. And combined with the conceit that these children are digging a hole to hell and are passing through the various layers of hell, it really kind of works for big portions of the film, albeit at the expense of the pacing, because this is a very slow film.
Yep.
It feels like a kind of a European art house type movie.
Oh yeah.
And your enjoyment of that is, your enjoyment of this film is going to be predicated on if you like that particular style of slow burn and the having to search the frame for the thing hiding there instead of having it jump out at you.
Yeah, and there was actually a little bit of that. I thought it was interesting. Like, it didn't happen all the time, but I think at the beginning I noticed like something moving in the woods, and there was a lot of like little subtle things like that that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, you watch that title card and you'll notice something going on there.
Yep, that's exactly it. Yeah,
I'm like, oh shit, something's going to go on. There's a little foreshadowing right there.
Yeah. Now there were a couple times in this movie where they definitely did the whole modern. Something's happening. There needs to be a music cue that happens to startle everyone. That took me out of it a little bit, because that is, like I said, a more modern thing where back then it was more subtle. Where something's happening in the background that's on the viewer to find that and catch that and see that. There was a handful of that, and that took me out of it a little bit.
Yeah. Though I have to say, one of the most effective sequences to me, again, without giving too much away, it's the scene where the screen is mostly black,
Oh,
and then it slowly starts fading in on something. You know the
Yep.
scene I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's your eye is trying to figure out what that is. I admire the restraint on the filmmakers to hold that particular shot as long as they did.
I almost called Aries during that.
It's creepy. It was legitimately creepy.
I'm going to be honest with you. I peed a little.
Yeah. I mean, we can edit this.
That was
That's
that was very disturbing.
Yeah.
Right?
And I'm like, all right, we can wrap this up now. Oh shit, it's still there. Ollie was scared. It was fucking not good.
And while the entire film isn't necessarily able to sustain, the strength of some of the better sequences of it, the fact that they were still able to do those and kind of get under the skin of us jaded horror fans that have seen a lot of different movies, that's just something that should be celebrated.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with that. And one of the things I kept trying to do was I kept trying to pause when there was words that would flash across the screen,
Yes.
and it was driving me nuts because I couldn't get the frame.
I tried, and then I was like, "Fuck it!" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"I'm done."
I quit after the first try. I'm like, there's no fucking way I'm getting this.
I think they said at the end, and it's not a spoiler, but I think they said that the symbol of Astaroth was shown 170 times.
Yes.
36,
Yeah.
I think. Was
Yeah, it was some
170
well over 100.
times.
Yeah.
And the first time I watched it, I did catch a couple of those. It's like, oh, that scratch looks a little too definite to be just a film scratch.
Yeah.
But it was fun that at least during the credits, they kind of peeled back the curtain a little bit of, here's the stuff you missed.
Yeah. I did think that was a good touch because, like at the end when the credits are rolling, I mean, we all know once again this is a movie. It's fiction, but it is cool to get that kind of glimpse behind it and kind of see what they were doing. I thought the one thing I loved, and it was at the beginning during the setup. I think it was, I wrote it down. I think it was one of the talking heads said Antrum is not safe. Like,
Yeah.
I thought that was like, that's perfect. Like, I just thought that was a perfect quote. And like, that's something you put on the box. I thought that was great. So I loved a lot of the setup and how they did that. And what about the kids? Did you guys, I thought that they were good. I thought the is it Nathan? Is that?
Mm-hmm.
I thought Nathan was great.
Yeah, I thought he was really good, and
he was like a combination of Bob from House by the Cemetery.
Fucking Bob. Sorry, I got a death vendetta against Bob. That fucking kid.
And the kid from the Candy Snatchers. If you ever see the movie The Candy Snatchers, great heist flick. 1973. Check it out. Kidnapper heist flick. Great movie. I saw those two kids in this kid, and I thought he was great.
Well, and most importantly to me, he looked like he came out of the 70s.
Right.
Well,
that hair helps.
The hair helps, but it's also in his features, and I think that a lot of that comes down to in the 70s there was a different sort of aesthetic that casting people went for than compared to what they go for today.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's you could take a kid out of the 70s, put him in today, and put him in modern clothes. You're not going to be able to tell the difference. But there was kind of a vibe and a look to a lot of 70s actors and specifically 70s children. And again, credit to the filmmakers that they found Rowan Smythe, who looks like he would have been a kid cast in a 70s film.
So it's funny you say that, Goro. So what do you mean by that? I'm just kind of fascinated. I know what you're saying, but
the only thing I can compare it to is it's almost the idea of like beauty standards. If we scale it up to adults, the things that were found necessarily attractive and appealing in the 70s aren't necessarily the same things that are appealing and attractive today for a lot of people. So when people are casting, they're casting to that ideal. They have an image of their head. This is the kid. This is and this is the girl. This is what we want them to look like. In the 70s, it's different than it was today. And so what the filmmakers did, in my opinion, is they kind of changed their what's the word I'm looking for? They changed what they were looking for to kind of make it more in line with what a 70s casting director would have been looking for.
Yeah. And I would definitely agree with that as well. And because there is sort of like the ideal sort of look for each era, and this kid definitely captures that sort of era of the 70s. So I think it was definitely good casting too, and I thought he acted it well as well.
Yeah. I mean, there were times when he was shouting, but he's a little kid. Leave him alone.
Yeah.
Supposed to be shouting.
Yeah, no, I'd say everyone was casted great in this movie, like visually and the way they performed.
You don't think so, Raven Shadow?
No, I mean, fucking.
It was very disturbing.
Are you talking about the?
We haven't gotten to that fucking part yet.
No, and you know what? We're not going to get to that part.
I know, yeah.
The Deliverance guys.
Well, I will say, without touching on that too much, the great thing about this film is just what Wolfie said, where they said this film isn't safe. This film is dangerous. So when it got to the climax with those characters that we were kind of referencing there, I was fully expecting something very terrible to happen.
Yeah,
because the film had set up a vibe where, like in the best horror films, anything could happen. That there wasn't going to be necessarily a happy ending to this. And then they managed to subvert that expectation again later on in the film, where we have can't go into it, but I like how they keep subverting our expectations.
They keep on zigging and zagging throughout this movie.
Exactly right.
And it seems like also, I mean, I'm certainly no scholar when it comes to religion, but I think that because they had the 5 major religions represented when they were digging their hole, with Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, Hinduism, and Judaism. Like, I thought that, some of the iconography of what they included I thought was good. And I even liked the book that well, I won't say who did it, but the book that Orally had with her, and I think some of the drawings were very crude, but I thought very effective. And I thought that was, I liked that whole setup. I liked everything that they did about that whole thing, and it made it believable, like that they believed what they were doing was going to help. And I thought that was a good way to go with it. And the one other thing I was wondering, one of you guys mentioned earlier about the parents, like, the parents obviously don't give a fuck because these kids were gone for like how long?
At least a day. They had
was the
like 2 days. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's the 70s. Yeah.
Unless in the 80s, for most of us, we had come home and the lights are on.
You're out in the woods. Lights don't come on, so no time to come home.
Yep.
Yeah.
They probably just told the mom, "Hey, we're going camping for the weekend." Fine, whatever.
You know what? I mean, I did that. So yeah, there's.
You could do that.
Yeah. There was nothing wrong with that. We're going camping. Okay, have fun.
Yeah, in the woods. It wasn't like going to the fucking campground, but there were woods up by the the trail.
Yeah, well, for all these parents knew these kids, they went out on Friday night and they were going camping and they'll be back on Sunday.
Yeah,
there's no reason for them to think otherwise.
Yeah,
and the one scene that got me going, that went with its the I guess cheap aesthetic of the film, is stop motion squirrel.
Oh God!
Oh, I love that. I love that.
I did love the squirrel. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that
That
up.
was fantastic.
That fucking squirrel.
That fucking squirrel, man. CGI squirrel. Not CGI squirrel. Stop motion squirrel.
And you know what? Completely unnecessary. Like you could have just you could have filmed the squirrel. Like eventually, like you film them for a half hour. You're eventually going to get 5 minutes of footage you need.
Get that motherfucker the fucking
I mean,
commercials back in the day. Like that fucking guy.
That's where it feels like, again, kind of the 70s thing, especially low budget, that, the director, he knew how to do stop motion, and damn it, he was going to get it into his film.
Yep. And it looked like shit, but damn it, he got it in there.
It was perfect.
It was
I
horrible.
love that.
Yeah, it wasn't just
that.
a stop motion squirrel. It was a terribly animated stop motion squirrel,
Yeah.
which made it even better.
It was
But I'm
glorious.
I'm like looking at it like, what's it gonna fucking do? Got binoculars
Yeah.
on,
Well, I was like,
It was
every minute,
freaking me out.
Oh yeah,
because
I'm like,
it's-
these kids
yeah.
are dead. These kids are dead. This is a squirrel
and it's
movie.
gonna
because this-
fucking,
it was freaking me out because the
Rawhead
stop
Rex or
motion
some
was
shit.
so shitty. It was so shitty, but it was
shitty stop motion.
but it was so brilliantly done
Yes.
that it gave the viewer the effect that the director wanted.
Exactly.
it's brilliant.
Cerberus squirrel.
Yeah, like,
it's fucking brilliant.
I was fucking terrified of what's gonna fucking do.
I was too, because
I just like to imagine that, engaging with the mythology of this film, apparently Satan is a really big fan of stop motion.
Yes, he is.
He's very proud of that squirrel.
Yes, he is.
After a couple minutes, though, I was waiting for the groundhog from Caddyshack to show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it made the fucking the Caddyshack groundhog like fucking Avatar or some shit, or like.
I was expecting it to like melt out of the climax of Evil Dead.
Yeah, I was too, actually.
And a little piece of food in his mouth too, like eating on it. Like
that was the capper for me with this movie.
That's the capper.
That was the capper. That was like in the beginning of the movie.
A lot happened after that. I'm just saying.
I just loved that scene.
And I love the initial. I love the getting to the forest scene was fucking great, and the mythology behind that, which I was a little fucking. I almost started fucking, getting a little fucking teary-eyed.
As to why they were there?
Well, no, when the whole what they could do to make them safe.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it sucks because I want to actually have a real conversation with you guys about this.
I understand why we got to keep it vague, because there's probably quite a few people that haven't seen this, and this film works best when you don't know much going into it. Yeah. I mean, I went into it having only seen the trailer, and in the trailer, they really don't show much footage from the film Antrum. It's mostly the mockumentary stuff. So it builds up that sort of expectation, which, to be honest, because this was the second time that I watched this film, the first time I watched it, you do run into the problem when you try to set something up as the scariest thing ever. It's the same thing we run into in news stories where people say, oh, this latest film from A24, scariest movie of all time. There's always that expectation of this is going to be great, and it doesn't quite live up to what the expectations we put upon it. Admittedly, the first time I saw this film, I walked away still enjoying it, but thinking, okay, they could have done that better. It got better on the second watching because I had an idea of what it was, and I could then appreciate it on its own terms instead of what I was putting on the film.
Yeah, after I watched it, normally I put in I just put in my little review, my 1 to 5 star rating on Letterboxd, and I still haven't done it yet because I still don't know where I sit with this film, because as Goro says, while I like where they were going with this, and I like the aesthetic and the ambiance and everything and pretty much everything that they did with this movie, I still don't know where I sit with it, because I feel that there's some things that just didn't seem right to me. Like, it's not fully thought out, but I'm not, and so I'm kind of stuck on the fence about it still.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, this is a film that's not necessarily trying to set up the most coherent narrative, but I do say it does improve with a second watch. You can follow it a little bit better and kind of get a better sense of what they were going for.
And you know what? I would say that probably holds true more towards the movies of the era, where there were a lot of more plot holes back then, because there wasn't a lot of rewatchability. Like, you watched a movie in the theater, that was it. There was no VCRs, no DVD players.
Right.
Yeah, movies now are so goddamn intricate. I mean, one little thing and it just blows the whole movie out of whack. Meanwhile, back then, like you said, you could do that and get away with it. But movies are made now so intricately that you leave out one little thing and people are going to notice it, and it's going to become a problem.
They're just going to talk about it at nauseum on Trick or Treat Radio.
Yeah.
Now they make long YouTube videos of the 10 biggest plot holes in Antrum.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, there's probably not a ton more we can say. We've talked a lot about sort of the setup, about some of the technical aspects of this, and we didn't get too deep into spoiler territory. But is there anything else, kind of like the stop motion squirrel? Was there anything else you guys wanted to bring up before we head to the verdict on this?
Soundtrack was very, very effective at setting up the the vibe of a 70s film, particularly that opening choral soundtrack. That sounded very Italian, I should say.
Yeah, I agree. I actually really did like the score in this. I thought they did a great job. MZ, I know. You know, you're a big fan of scores. Do you feel that this was complimentary? It was a good complimentary score of the film.
Yes, absolutely, definitely. It definitely fit that 70s vibe. I think they did a great job. I forget who it was that did it. I remember it, but now I don't.
Now you forgot. Now you're gonna frantically fiddle through your phone and try to find it.
Yes, I am. Leave me alone.
No, I'm not gonna leave you alone. I'm gonna pick on you because you're fucking doing this and you're dragging the show on.
It says
All right.
Music by Alicia Fricker.
There you go.
Fricker, yeah. The reason why I remember that. No, the reason why I remember that is because it. One of the. Fricker was one of the people in the mockumentary section of this movie.
Oh.
Yeah, Brock Fricker. Well, you don't forget a name like Brock Fricker. You know
that is a good name.
It is a good name, isn't it?
I went to high school with him.
But no, I agree. The soundtrack was very, 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 very good.
Want to throw a couple more varies in there?
Very,
very, very, very, very good.
The soundtrack was very, 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 very good.
All right, let's head to the verdict of this one.
Trick or treat, baby. I wonder if people would say you're a trick or a treat.
Trick or treat, motherfucker.
All right, verdict time. We're going to let you know whether Antrum, the deadliest film ever made, was a trick or a treat. Any final thoughts? Let's start with MZ, because he was on the fence.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think I think I'll say that this is a treat. It's got a lot of stuff, a lot of great stuff going for it. The only thing it doesn't have is really coherence. It kind of leaves things open. You know, I find that I always find that to be important. But then again, at the same time, maybe it was meant to be that way just for the sake of giving that creepy feeling, you know, giving that uneasy vibe that obviously the movie Antrum wants to display, but also the people who made the entire movie wants to display and give to us. So you got great performances throughout, very unsettling scenes, lots of demonic scenery. I think that this is one, when visually speaking, this is one of the best renditions of a 70s film probably ever made, and better than anything that Grindhouse put out. You know, I just think it's really that good. Shooting it on 16 millimeter and then filtering it is just the way to go. I mean, these guys hit the mark as far as that goes. Just the unended stories, though, I don't know. But you know what? So I'm jabbering. I know. I'll say this is a treat. I did like it, and I think I will watch it again just to catch on to the. Maybe I can enjoy it just a little bit more. But right now, I'll say, yeah, this is a treat.
All right, Aries.
Was this filmed on 16 millimeter? Did we?
No, I think it was shot digitally. But
okay, that's what I thought. I mean,
like
MD just kind of threw that out. I thought I missed something.
I couldn't find any technical details on it, but I have to think low budget film like this, they shot it digitally.
Yeah, nowadays I would think so. Yeah, on a cell phone or something. Yeah. Okay, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, this movie definitely was a treat. It was very good. It was very, especially if you grew up watching this style of movie in the 70s. It had that feel. It wasn't 100% on, but I don't think any movie's going to nail that, because a movie from that era just has a feel to it that you can mimic, but you can't get 100%. This movie had its flaws in its story, but it definitely was good. There was little to no gore in it, but but the creepiness factor, when you take that into account, it makes up for the lack of gore. So check this movie out. This movie definitely is a treat.
All right, Raven Shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to ask you to come in on Saturday.
I wish I could have watched this in a theater, like going in the same way I did, but kind of blind, like kind of Coolidge Corner midnight movie, like noontime movie actually.
Yeah, you'd fall asleep at midnight.
I'd fall asleep. But I was really sucked into this, man. I didn't know where the hook was going to come from, and say I really want to talk about this in detail with you fellas, but it's absolutely true where you got to go into this as blind as you can. And I recommend watch this movie by yourself with the lights off, at night. And it's definitely unsettling. I was definitely creeped out at times, and I want to talk about why I was creeped out. Because while we didn't have any gore, we definitely had a lot of other verbs, and some creepy.
Yeah, a lot of creepy. Don't say it because it works better if you don't say it.
Yeah, I want to say there's two characters in a.
Don't. Yeah, just fuck. No.
Fuck.
No, they don't fuck. But
Well.
I was fucking scared a couple times. Listen, up and nothing. That's why I'm fucking not going camping ever fucking again. I don't give a fuck. And oddly enough, it even had like some tender parts as well. Like the story was kind of moving between the bond, the brother and sister. Like it was kind of like sweet.
That was great. I love that bond.
Their hero's quest. And when she tried to fuck.
Yeah, don't
fuck,
say
fuck,
it. Yeah.
Fuck. Fuck. Fuck.
What the hell is going on?
Just say you like it and move on.
It was fine.
Yeah.
No.
It was fine.
It was a treat. It was a treatment. Check it out. Watch it with your pants off and the lights on.
You know what?
Jesus.
Let's Al Gore speak and learn, because he's going to school you and me and MZ.
Well, Bombaleo. That's why we have Al Gore on.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to fucking step on his fucking beard, man.
Putting all these expectations on me. Shit.
Oh, come on. You're going to live up to them. Go.
All right, well, let's hear from Al Gore.
All right. Like I said, I went into this movie with a fair amount of hype because it was engaging with a genre that I absolutely love. The idea of the cursed media. Whether you go back to Chambers, King in Yellow, whether you go into John Carpenter's Cigarette Burns, there's a lot of manifestations of that. So it had me with its hook. However, whenever you're doing something like that, there's always the possibility of it not living up to the expectations. And to be fair, Antrum doesn't quite live up to that expectation. Nothing ever could, because we managed to walk out of this movie both sane, relatively, and alive, relatively. However, in terms of evoking the era that they set out to do, I think that this film was tremendously on point, whether from the performance standpoint, the technical filmmaking standpoint, just the overall aesthetics of the 1970s, they absolutely nailed. And by capturing that key aesthetic, they were able to successfully transport you into this, bolstered as it was also by the mythology that was set up in the mockumentary series. And it is a film that does indeed benefit from repeat viewings, not only to capture some of the nuances in the storytelling and the visuals, but also to, again, engage with it simply on its own terms. And as such, it was tremendously satisfying on the second watch, and I think that it will continue to be satisfying in subsequent watches through the years, because I certainly intend to own this film. And if nothing else, any movie that manages to put a shiver down the spine of the jaded horror fan I am, that's gold, man. That's the dragon we are perpetually chasing. When we discovered horror films as a child, we believed them to be unsafe. And at times, Antrum did indeed evoke that feeling. So it's absolute a treat for me.
Yeah, and I'll agree with that. And it takes a lot to really creep me out when it comes to movies. And I don't. This one didn't really get there, but it was close because it set a great scene. It set this up, and it had me sort of on the edge of my seat going in. So that sort of, that sort of preparation for it really helped a lot. And despite, I think this is not a perfect film, and I did have some issues with Antrum, the actual film, the found film. I think they did a lot of things right, and I think that it was pretty creepy, and I think that they were able to do some pretty interesting stuff here. So I think for any horror fan, I think this is one that should definitely be checked out because it does enough in terms of sort of the cursed lost film, but I think it does it in a slightly different way that may feel unique, despite the fact that we've sort of seen this thing before. I think that this has a not safe feel to it. To quote the film, Antrum is not safe, and I think they do a good job of setting that up and sort of basically following through with it. So I think it's a pretty endearing film at times as well. So I think a lot of horror fans will dig this. So I think everyone should give Antrum a shot. Check it out. It's on VOD. And so treat for me. So yeah, treats all around for Antrum. Pretty cool. All right. So we are going to take a quick break, and then we will be back, and we're going to be talking about our next film. That would be In Fabric. So hang tight, and we'll be back in how long, MZ?
2 and 2.
More like 1 and 40.
All right, 1 and 40.
You go through your week with the same old routine.
What you really want is some blood and thunder in your life.
Well, friend, you found it. The Cromcast is an adventurous journey through the history of two-fisted pulp stories with your hosts John,
Josh,
and Luke. We have action,
horror,
and adventure, all through the lens of pulp luminary Robert E. Howard. Don't just stay in your ordinary life.
Find your pulp life at thecromcast.blogspot.com.
The Cromcast.
The Cromcast.
The Cromcast. A podcast for the barbarian at heart.
Thank you guys for having me on. It's a blast. You guys are awesome.
Thank you so much.
And, Trick or Treat Radio, man. That's where it's at. That's the new Fangoria Radio is Trick or Treat Radio.
Don't say that.
You really put us under.
It's like swearing in church. Huh?
You just jinxed us.
Yeah. You put a lot on our shoulders just now.
Well, we can strive for greatness.
You guys are awesome. You really are. You got a great show.
Hello. This is the Sasquatch, a.k.a. Bigfoot, but you can just call me Frank. And when I'm not stomping around the woods throwing rocks at hunters, I like to listen to the Paranormal Punchers podcast. That's right, Paranormal Punchers. They talk about all things paranormal, and they're hilarious. Go find them on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, and ParanormalPunchers.com.
I'm Alex West. And I'm Andrea Subasati, and we're from the Faculty of Horror podcast. And you're listening to Trick or Treat Radio.
We returned on Trick or Treat Radio, and December double feature Cram Jam rolls on.
Does it ever? I think you and I are the only ones that are rolling, Wolfie.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I have one ear in reality, so I can hear Raven Shadow like laughing in the basement. It's creepy. just like ho 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 going on. Like I don't know what the fuck is happening down there because he's alone. Him and the dog.
Are you sure he's alone?
I don't know.
That's what happens, man. We talked about Antrum, and now we're descending into hell.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or he could be
squirrels and talking dogs.
Or he could be talking to a killer dress.
Oh.
And that leads us to our next film, In Fabric. So In Fabric is rated R. It is 1 hour 58 minutes. It is a comedy horror written and directed by Peter Strickland, and it stars Marianne Jean-Baptiste, Haley Squires, Leo Bill, Julian Barrett, Steve Oram, Jagan A., Richard Bremer, Terry Bird, Fatima Mohammed, and Gwendolyn Christie in a role that I didn't recognize her for about 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
At least not when she first appears. I didn't recognize her because I think she had her eyes closed. But
yeah.
So, In Fabric is a haunting ghost story set against the backdrop of a busy winter sales period in a department store and follows the life of a cursed dress as it passes from person to person with devastating consequences. So, the reason I was interested in this mostly is because it was directed by Peter Strickland, who we have done only one of his films in the past. Well, actually, no, we've technically done two, I guess, because he did the segment called The Cobbler's Lot in the Field Guide to Evil. You guys remember Field Guide to Evil?
Yep.
So
well, this is these are the only films that he's done. If I'm not mistaken.
Well, we didn't do the Duke of Burgundy.
Yeah.
But otherwise, and Catalan Varga, but otherwise we did do Barbarian Sound Studio, which I think definitely, I don't know if it's definitely not one of the most beloved films. Maybe one of the most memorable reviews we've done, if not only for the Dangerously Aroused Goblin.
Yeah.
Still the best Goblin. Fuck
Yes.
you, Cheddar Goblin.
Well, how about Cheddar Goblin versus Demon Squirrel or Stop Motion Squirrel?
My money's on the stop motion squirrel.
Yeah, you don't
He's
know
unsettling.
What him.
Well, Goro just hates Mandy, so it's a
Yeah.
Oh, really, Goro? All right.
I don't go into it.
I don't know about it. No.
I try to be positive. People can like what they like.
Does that include Chihuahuas, Goro?
Those things are the devil.
Oh, I'm with you there.
Oh, come on.
Chihuahuas.
You've met Ozzy.
Ozzy's
a Chihuahua?
He's part Chihuahua.
Okay.
Oh, then part of him is evil.
That's
Yeah.
Pomeranian.
I think it's the part with the teeth.
The good genes have suppressed the bad genes.
He's a Pomchi. He's a Pomeranian Chihuahua.
You never go full Chihuahua.
Oh,
Ozzy's kind of like Blade. He's the best of both worlds.
I don't know, man. I love Chihuahuas. So, I don't know. You guys are fucking crazy.
I've been bit by too many Chihuahuas.
Was it provoked?
No, it was one of those terrible things, and I don't hold it against the entire breed, but sometimes, just like with pit bulls, they tend to attract a certain kind of owner, and Chihuahuas have a tendency to bond with a certain type of owner sometimes, and then they only bond with that owner, and then they're like, fuck the rest of the world. So if you try to make friends with one of those Chihuahuas, like when you're a little kid, they will bite the shit out of you.
What do you hate worse, Chihuahuas or geese?
Oh, geese, 100% geese. Fuck geese.
Canadian geese?
Canadian geese.
Canadian geese. Oh, motherfuckers.
I hate them.
Oh my god, I want to see a fucking team up, Aries and Goro versus the Canadian geese.
We will destroy every goose in the world.
Oh my god,
Canadian geese.
I almost got in trouble at work because I tried to run over a flock of them motherfuckers.
Motherfuckers just stroll across the road and you can't run them over.
Oh my god, yes. I don't know.
My God, that's a fucking movie.
Oh, I hate them. I hate them.
That took a turn.
Shit all over the place.
Yeah.
They're mean.
Fuck fucking Hobbs and Shaw. I want Ares and Goro. Just
chased me through a cemetery when I was a child.
Hobbs and Shaw.
like,
Oh, I'll take that too.
I'll take it.
All right.
On the move.
Yeah, so In Fabric, directed by Peter Strickland, and so yeah, I actually this is another one that's why it's perfect that you're on for the show, El Goro, because this is one that was sort of on my radar, but then once again it completely fell off, and then I saw that you ordered an import of it, right? You got the Blu-ray.
Yeah, because this one actually got a release in England months before we had a release here. And this one had a lot of hype in my house. I was a huge fan of Peter Strickland, going back to Barbarian Sound Studio and Duke of Burgundy, both of which I've discussed on a previous episode of Talk Without Rhythm. And Stephanie's a huge fan of Gwendolyn Christie, so there was a lot of hype, and both of us were just getting more and more pissed off that the release just kept getting pushed back, which happens so often. It happened with Antrum, and eventually I said, "Screw it! I'm just going to order it through Amazon.co.uk."
Yeah, there you go. So that's how I basically found out about both of these coming out. And even the sites that I go to get my VOD information did not have either of these listed. So that's they both kind of went under the radar a little bit, I guess, and just popped out on VOD. But yeah, so this is one that I wanted to. Ideally, we would have done this not in December, but that's when it came out. So we had to go with the release date. So, and the reason I say that is because 2-hour movie for December double feature cram jam. This one probably could have used a deeper discussion, but here we are, and Goro's going to help us with it. So this one here, I don't know. I mean, obviously Goro talked about expectations in his house. Obviously, you guys probably didn't know anything about this movie until I mentioned it last week, but just thinking about another movie from the director of Barbarian Sound Studio, what did you guys think? Were you a little excited? Did you not give a fuck?
I was excited
because I really like Barbarian Sound Studio.
I didn't care for it, but I really appreciated the director's technique.
Yeah,
and his obvious love for Giallo. So knowing that going into this, I didn't know what to expect, but I was certainly looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I mean, he definitely, I think he turns the Giallo up to maybe not quite 11 on this, but he definitely turns it up.
Yeah, I mean, he is unabashedly a fan of that sort of 70s Euro horror aesthetic.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could certainly see the Jolly influence on Barbarian Sound Studio. In Duke of Burgundy, he was definitely dipping into some Jess Franco territory. In Fabric I'm still trying to unpack where a lot of his inspirations were, but the thing I love about Strickland is that he unabashedly attempts or utilizes the aesthetics of the 70s Euro horror films and then just does his own thing with them. That's the best thing. That's the best thing I can say about Strickland. He is one of those true iconoclastic filmmakers that you could tell that these are his movies, that this is his aesthetic. And it goes down not only to the visuals, but how he tells the story and his tendency to let reality become unwound in so many of his stories. Yeah. That it's something I really, very, very much appreciate him, and was definitely on display in Fabric.
I'm going to pull a Raven Shadow here, and I'm going to compare two movies. This is basically Suspiria meets Rubber.
I could see that.
I would say it's Suspiria meets Rubber and meets Are You Being Served?
There's elements of that too. So the one thing I will say, and it is interesting to me that this film gets classified as a horror comedy, because it certainly is a comedy, but it's not a broad comedy. It's a very, very subtle.
Yep.
And it's hilarious if you get onto the wavelength of the film, but it's not something you're going to be, guffawing through the entire time through. It's a very, very subtle style of humor that is very, very funny to me, but I could certainly see it not necessarily landing for everyone.
Yeah. There's a couple. I mean, Yeah, it's the humor is very broad, but there were a couple of moments where I found myself, chuckling more than I think I should be.
Yeah.
And not because I think it's it's in poor taste, but because I think it doesn't deserve that kind of a laughter in a film like this. Even though there is humor in there that will make you laugh, I found myself laughing just a little bit more than I think I should have.
Which that may be exactly what he's going through. I think what he's operating under is very much the comedy of the absurd, that especially the absurd manners that get shown into this, whether it be it's absolutely insanely over the top way that the store clerks talk and that everybody treats that as completely normal, whether it be the weird amount of restrained politeness that's shown by the two bosses that show up in the movie, or the just exaggeratedly bizarre sexually charged pettiness of Gwendolyn Christie. This film, it operates on a couple different comedic levels, but there's always a kind of a thread of threat in so much of the comedy.
Yeah, and a lot of it's kind of circumstantial as well. It's not, there's no, guffaw moments where there's like a punchline or a physical bit like that. It's more of just kind of like through the circumstances of this. And I think you're right. Like once you're on the wavelength of this, you can sort of digest that and understand sort of where they're going. And yeah, like this is, this is sort of similar to, I think this is a more digestible version of Bruno Forzani and Helene Catet, the directors behind The Strange Color of Your Body's Tears. I think this is sort of more of a digestible format of sort of what they're doing, because they're very much based in, that Euro horror thing. But I think that this is a little bit more easy to digest in terms of the narrative is there, you could follow it, whereas Forzani and Catet's films are more surrealistic and sort of not quite following a linear path narratively. So, but I think there's definitely some similarities there, and it definitely has a throwback to that 70s Euro horror. And I really, this is an interesting film. I think it's a cool film. Now, whether or not everything worked, we'll sort of get into the nuts and bolts of it. But I think on paper, this is an interesting concept, and the look of it is great. I love the look, and there's a very meta feel to what's going on. And I gotta admit that I didn't get to do much research on this one after the fact, and I didn't really have a lot of time to kind of sit with my thoughts to really break it down. So this is one that I'd love to talk about and to get some more thoughts of I'd love to have an in-depth conversation with Goro, but once again, I don't want to get too deep into spoilers here. But I think that there's some meta stuff going on with the department store and the clerks, and especially the guys at the bank. What were their names? Played by Julian Barrett, Stash and Clive. Like, there was definitely something going on with these characters in terms of this sort of meta feel to what was going on. And I thought that it was really, really pretty cool, like what they were doing. The killer dress is a little far-fetched, but it works in this. I think they're able to kind of pull it all together. And there's some really like silly, bordering on like kind of ridiculous scenes where the dress is just kind of floating and hanging like above the bed, but
going under door shit.
Yeah, but through it all, like I never felt that this was like went too far overboard. I feel it just walked that line, and I don't feel it went too far over. And I gotta admit, every time they went to the department store, I loved those scenes. Like, just something about them. And I know I'm going to butcher her name, but the actress is Fatma Mohammed, who plays Miss Luckmore, the main clerk who sells the dress to Sheila. I thought she was kind of mesmerizing in this. The way she delivers her dialogue and the look and just what they did with her, I thought was really super interesting. So I think that's something I'd like. And when I come away from a movie and I want to know more about a character or a world or something, like, to me that's a really effective movie in terms of, even if it's just that one thing, because I want to find out more about this. And that's where I get the sort of the Suspiria feel. Like, I feel like the clerks of this were almost like the headmasters of the dance teachers, in a sense, you know.
That's exactly how I felt. I felt that Miss Luckmore was a lot like the Madame Blanc of Suspiria, and all those that work around her are her underlings. There's definitely an Argento vibe to this. There's definitely a Bava vibe to this. Say like Bay of Blood or Lisa and the Devil, with that kind of with that kind of that zany color control that's used in this movie to just bring out like just dreamlike, nightmarish, baroque imagery. You know, you don't get that today. You get that with this guy, with Strickland. You don't get that today, except this guy, and it's incredible his attention to detail about how much he wants to reference Bava and reference Argento. I mean, Argento it's easily Suspiria.
Yeah.
I mean, that's painfully obvious. But it's incredible the amount of restraint, like you were saying, the amount of restraint that he has when it comes to the dress. That the dress is, I think there is a bit of a restraint in the way the dress is what's the word I'm looking for?
Kind of utilized.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. I think the dress has a very settled back utilization in it, but just enough where that whoever has it, that something is going to happen. But it's restrained a little bit to the point where, well, it might not happen to this person. It might happen to this person. We don't know, So it's interesting. It's interesting the way he's set up.
There's a lot of what seems like symbolism that I'm not sure if it was intentional or if I'm trying to read a little bit too much into it. But especially at the end when Mrs. Luckmore is going down the dumbwaiter scene, when she's going down, I won't say much more than that, but I thought that was a super interesting scene, and I was trying to sort of take away from that to figure out, sort of if there was more of a meta kind of feel to it or meta idea, but there's little things like that make me want to go back and sort of revisit it, because I feel that there's some stuff I missed, or maybe I can connect the dots a little bit better the second time. But and did you see this twice, Goro? Because you did this on.
Yeah, I actually discussed it just a couple of weeks ago on Talk Without Rhythm, and I definitely feel that there was a lot more under the hood of this film than just the imagery. I mean, that's one of the things you'll find in Strickland's movies. He tends to want to explore sort of broader psychological themes within his films. And what we find, at least what I pulled out of In Fabric, without going into too much of detailed spoiler territory, is the idea of identity.
Yep.
And particularly how identity is defined within our society. There's one of the reoccurring themes that pops up, particularly in the character of Sheila when she's interacting with her bosses, where they're talking how her actions are not necessarily fitting in with the wavelength. It's something like the Watley wavelength of the organization that she's in. And we also find that in the conversations that she has with Miss Luckmore when the dress is being sold, and they almost start getting into the metaphysical definition of the dress and what necessarily is kind of wrapped up within our clothing and within our possessions as a whole. The point that the film was sort of making is that when we buy clothes, we're not just buying something to cover us. We are in essence buying an image of ourselves in the future. We look at these clothes and says, this is who I am going to be when I wear this clothes. And what the film seems to be talking about is kind of that subsumation of identity in favor of the identity of the clothes and also the identity of the institutions. The identity of Luckmore is so wrapped up within her job that she really doesn't exist beyond that. We see that also in the Reg Speaks character, who is so wrapped up in his technical expertise in washing machine repair that he really doesn't have much of an identity beyond that. People speak over him. He's kind of a wilting character. Yet when he starts talking about how he can repair a washing machine, people get put into a trance by it. There's a power in his identity. The horror of this comes when we realize that the possessions that we have that are supposed to be our controlled identity, this is who I want to be, when we realize that they actually have an agenda of their own, that they are going to exert their own will upon us. And the idea that the desire for that sort of identity can drive us into destruction. And we see when these characters, when they reject the identities or they have the identities pulled away from them, the only thing they have left is devastation.
Yeah. And I think that's a really cool way of putting it. And one of the ideas that I was playing with, and especially we see that with let me get her name. It was in with Babs, played by Haley Squires, and where she asks what size the dress is, and it's like, and then later on, like Miss Luckmore asks, well, what size do you want to be? So it's sort of that projection of the sort of idealized version of yourself, like you had just mentioned, Goro. And I thought that was kind of a real good clue into that. Is she's like, oh, I'm a 36, or I want to be a 36, and so I thought that was interesting. That sort of the what you envision yourself being, and and sort of how maybe that sort of mentality or maybe I'm drawing a little bit too much into it, but how that could be self-destructive, of this sort of this attaining this idealized version of yourself,
Well, yeah, consider how the film reaches its conclusion. And again, without giving too much details away, so much is made about the desire that's wrapped up in the store. The idea of the sales. People are always asking, did you get something good from the sales? People are waiting with bated breath to get in, and the clerks are literally welcoming them into the store. And then we see where that impulse leaves the people in the final scene of the store.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
From the point where the workers are welcoming in the customers to the point to where they're selling the clothes to the customers. It's done in a very ritualistic way.
Sure.
So it's basically they're saying, you're going to attain the beauty that you want within this dress, but this dress is also going to be your worst nightmare.
Yeah, and it also deals with the concept of fetishes. That there is a very sexually charged tone throughout these things, and it's wrapped up in the inanimate. In one of the more scenes that I was sure going to bring up some eyebrows on people. The changing of the clothes of the mannequin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's me in 30 years.
Oh my God.
But 30 years? 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But even then, the evocation of the fetish, it is so much wrapped up in identity. The fact that somebody can look at something which for the rest of the world is completely innocuous. It's just something that exists in our everyday. But for this person, through their projection of the potential of this thing or the connection that it has into their history and all of these little things. It imbues it with a sort of power, and it also gives the person something of an identity, that this is something that is unique to them. There's a reason that Reg paused to look at the stocking mannequin leg that was bent in just a sort of way, and we saw his background in it. We saw what it evoked within him. And to Babs, it was nothing. It was just Reg being stupid. But the idea of fetish, identity, projection, these are all things that get so slewed up in this movie that it's never quite clear cut, and that's what lends the film some of its unsettling quality. But it's there, and I'm still trying to find the proper words. And the second time I've talked about this movie to really sort of unpack what I think what Strickland is going for. I have no idea if this is exactly what it is, and it's entirely possible he'll burst on my door and it's like, "You know nothing of my work. Fuck you." But this is what I drew from the film.
Yeah, and it's funny because Goro actually sent a picture of Miss Luckmore, like with sort of her fingers on her lips with the blood, and he's like, "Just wait till them boys see this scene." So I was like, "Oh, what's?"
That was an amazing scene.
Yeah, because I hadn't seen it yet, so I was like, "Oh, I wonder what scene that is." And then, sure enough, I knew exactly when they were showing the mannequin. I'm like, "Oh, this has got to be it." But and I don't even know. I don't think was the guy who was getting off to that was his name mentioned in this?
Yes. Well, he's credited. He's Mr. Lundy.
Mr. Lundy. Okay.
Yeah. Fun fact, and you would probably appreciate this, Wolfie. The actor who played him, he was in the 13th Warrior.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
He had tattoos on his face.
I do recognize him. They must have aged him in this because I don't think he's actually that old.
Yeah,
he's 66.
66. Okay, yeah, maybe.
And as we've seen from Necro Butcher, you could look really rough even as early as 45.
That's true. Yeah.
Or Necro.
Case in point, right here.
You look great.
Oh, he was actually in Rise of Skywalker.
Yep.
All right. So
does he do the same thing?
I hope so.
Come here, princess.
Oh God, that was your dream, wasn't it? Just that.
As long as it's not Baby Yoda or Jar Jar, I think we'll be okay.
Come on, let's
hey, and as we can tell from the mannequin, this film was definitely set in the 70s.
Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Grooming standards are different.
Yeah.
Different. What you're talking about?
Aesthetics. 70s aesthetics. We tie it together.
Yep.
Well, the Abdul-Jabbar cut myself, but.
Yep. That wasn't Lincoln down there.
Yeah, no, like Professor X. I like that.
Or Mr. T.
And one thing I neglected to mention in the beginning is that this was actually executive produced by Ben Wheatley, which I don't know if he's produced any of Strickland's work previously, but it seems like a match made in heaven.
Yeah, it feels like if these guys weren't working together, they were at least having drinks together, because just the stuff, the levels they're operating under in the British film industry, these guys feel like they would hang out. Yeah, absolutely. And so when I saw that, I actually was like, I got more excited because, obviously I'm a huge fan of Ben Wheatley's work. So the one other thing I really loved about this was just sort of like the marketing for the department store, like all the catalogs that they had, I thought were gorgeous. And that commercial, what did that remind you guys of? Someone's got to fucking know what I'm talking about.
I got to remember the commercial now.
It totally reminded me of Silver Shamrock.
Yes. It had that same kind of subliminal quality to it.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was.
I gotta watch it again too.
I'm surprised you didn't pick up on that, MZ, because I figured it out.
I'm sure I did. But I just don't remember the commercial offhand.
Yeah, they played it at least twice that I can recall. But yeah, I thought like they did a great job of just sort of doing the marketing for this department store and just making it making it this thing that you want to go to and you want to buy something. And I thought that was really cool. And I also love the scene it's when the first time that Sheila tries on the dress. I thought that was a beautiful scene, the way they filmed that, and just sort of the way it looked with the different, sort of the different camera angles, I guess, if you will, or different shots of her trying it on.
Yeah, and it was one thing I actually noticed on the second watch, because there was the shot where she was standing in front of multiple mirrors, and essentially they're supposed to all show the same reflection. But if you look at the other reflections, they're actually different shots. They're different times of her putting on the dress that slowly start going away until there's just the central image of her wearing the dress. It's, again, kind of fitting into my theory of identity. All of the other ones are representing her misgivings about the dress, of, her previous identity, until it finally all congeals into one image, that this is who she is now that she is wearing the dress.
Yeah, I will definitely agree. I just thought that was a beautiful scene. And the other scene that really kind of stood out to me was, I guess there was more than one of these, but the first washer scene when Sheila washes the dress. What's that?
When they're playing the game?
Yeah. Oh, no. No. Yeah, when they're playing the game. You're right. Yeah. That's it. Yep.
And then, that's not for nothing. Her son's fucking girlfriend.
That's Gwendolyn Christie, man.
Gwendolyn Christie.
Well, her character rhymes with yacht. I mean,
Captain Phasma.
Wasn't very. Wait.
That's Captain Phasma, man.
Really?
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
Fucking
Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
No shit.
Yep.
She was fucking tall. No kidding.
Oh, she's tall in real life, man. She's my height.
Well, that explains a couple things on your end, Goro. Okay, no shit. All right. Good for her. But yeah, she was rude.
Congratulations. She's tall.
She's fucking rude to the mother.
Oh yeah.
Rude to the mother.
There's that whole power dynamic there. It's so twisted.
Yeah, she wanted to wield her fucking, Phasma everywhere, but she's rude. She's a bad girl. Oh shit! But yeah, that was really intense, though. I mean, that concerns me.
But
washer and dryer.
But I love that scene, and they unplug it, and the thing's still fucking bouncing around, and she gets that horrible cut. And blood squirting everywhere, and the fucking washer is just going nuts.
Well, that even too, the son was kind of a dick, a 20-something, full of himself asshole. But I liked the conversation that he had, even in French, with Captain Phasma. And
have you met a 20-something-year-old?
Fucking tell me, is why we're in this fucking room, Aries. But at least it seemed like he was kind of got out of his own head for a little bit, and when shit happened, he was there for his mom, which I liked that. But that was a very intense scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were moments of comedy in here that were,
there's a laugh riot.
Yeah, the washing machine attacking everyone.
Yeah.
Fucking
the
hysterical.
the washing machine still bouncing around after it's been unplugged. I found that to be a little bit funny. Like I said before, there are moments of humor in here that I found myself laughing at a little bit more than I should.
Yes.
Another scene was when Sheila, when she goes on her first date with that real dud of a blonde.
Yeah.
And he just opens up his briefcases and hands her a rose that's bent in half.
That guy was the worst.
God damn, he was awful.
So you like to laugh?
Yep.
Hey, fucking great.
It's those little moments of humor that kind of set off the tension that's in this movie. And I liked it. I like the idea that Strickland knows how to pull it back a little bit.
Yeah.
With light moments of humor, broad humor. But
I thought it was interesting to see how different dating was back then in the 70s.
In England.
Yeah, obviously on the internet, if someone wants to date, you just go online, but back then.
Swipe right.
Yeah, exactly. But back then it was send me your picture, self-addressed stamp,
Yeah, it seemed like something like answer machine dating or something was going on there. I didn't
Yeah.
quite understand it.
Like voice box 2814 THQ1 whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Like the whole when you'd see people like record an introduction for themselves on a VHS
Video,
tape.
yeah, video.
Yeah. Video dating. Before my time.
Yes. So I thought that was an interesting glimpse into that world, and just to kind of juxtapose it with how like easy it is now. With like MZ said, just swipe right. Like it's ridiculous. I think we found your next tattoo though, Raven Shadow, in this movie.
Which one?
The mannequin. The
No,
bleeding man.
no. It was it was her son Vince, one of his paintings. Gordon knows.
I can't remember.
The one she picks up and looks at, it's
It's a beehole.
Oh, the anus.
Yeah.
With a bunch of people worshiping it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the glowing with the coming out. Like,
Worship the anus.
I don't know. I don't know.
I love what we talk about your next tattoo. You've run out of canvas a long time ago.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I'm gonna bulk up.
I'm gonna bulk up.
Yeah. It's a fucking 4,000.
I hesitate to. There's sort of a storytelling. I don't know if I call it a gimmick, but I almost hesitate to mention, because I think, once again, I think that this works better if you sort of don't know too much going in.
Mm-hmm.
So I won't say too much, but I will say that sort of in the second half of this, there was that scene. It's very subtle, but I loved when Reg had the dress and put it on top of the vegetables. And like,
Oh yeah, it was cool. That was cool.
yeah, like I thought little subtle touches like that were really cool. And I like how it referenced, other things. Like we find out that the woman in the department store catalog who wore the dress died. Like there's like little things like that tie this world together. So we get a lot of these cool stories, but they all take place in this, in the same world. And this department store is sort of what unifies the stories. And I think that's kind of a cool thing. And it was a little jarring at first when they did it, but still I thought that was pretty interesting.
Oh, definitely.
Did that take you guys out of it at all, or did you not really?
It was definitely unexpected, but
yeah,
with Strickland, after what he's done before, you have to take that ride with him.
Yeah, I was never taken out of this movie at all. I say, if you want to watch this movie, just open your mind.
Quaid, yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah, you might have to go
open
full
your
Quaid
mind.
You might have to go full Quaid on this to really, really appreciate this movie.
I should have fucking told me fucking before then.
I actually wish that this was more than just a movie, where it was a series where each half hour or 45 minutes was a different person with this dress, where they could have explored it a lot more.
Well, that's kind of where I'm coming from, man. I mean, I'm not a Giallo fan, and it's not that I don't dig Giallos or like them. I just wasn't exposed to enough of them, and it's just not my milk. It's not my wheelhouse. I mean,
just to clarify, I would say that this is probably more Euro horror. It does have some elements, if you will, but a lot of the hallmarks of a Giallo were not present.
Right, but I mean, obviously, you guys are making those Suspiria references, and right. It's not, but fine, whatever it is, it's not my wheelhouse. So whatever you want to fucking call it, it's not for me. And it's not that I didn't appreciate the intro and even the old fashioned like showing clips of the movie before it starts. You know what I mean? I was kind of into it, and I can't blame this film for not being what I expected. But what I expected was something else, and I guess I expected more of an anthology with it. And it's not the film's fault; it's just my expectations.
They led you to believe there was going to be more than what it was.
Yeah, and
there was more. I mean, they implied it was going to be more than two stories.
And I was very surprised. I mean, like we watched the first like hour before I had some technical difficulties, and I'm like, what the fuck? I can get on with it. And really, aside from the like Euro horror Bobs from Office Space, I really didn't.
You know what? I got that feeling too.
Right. What do you say you actually do here?
That's a good pull. Well done.
Right. Even the way they both sat, like one was the dude from Scrubs, and one was the kind of chubby fella.
Yeah, I definitely got that vibe too.
And they're British. That's cool. I like that. But this movie wasn't for me, and I kind of wanted just to kind of get on with it.
And that is 100% legitimate. I mean, when I said that Strickland was very much an iconoclastic filmmaker, part of that is going to be not everybody is going to engage with the way he tells stories. And I have absolutely no problem to people who come out of it saying, you know what, that just wasn't for me, because his films aren't for everybody. And that's okay. I mean, I'm sure you could appreciate how beautiful some of the stuff was, but
and totally go wrong. I mean, the look of it was great, and I'm by no means am I shitting on the actors or what he did. It just wasn't for me. I was kind of looking for more of an anthology. I mean, like give me some evil panties going around. I just
well, it does feel a little
different bad girls
staggering.
wearing those.
It does. I kind of see where you're coming from, because it was like the first hour of the movie, or the first hour and 10 minutes, was all about Sheila in the dress.
Yeah.
And then we see the dress get changed over to more.
I kind of wanted to avoid some of that talk.
I didn't know I was.
No, I just
spoiling.
You're not spoiling it per se, but I just I don't know. I feel like it's.
I wasn't going to dig deep into that. I was just mentioning.
Yeah, there's not a lot of value to discussing it, I think, versus allowing people to kind of go in cold. So, but I think.
What are you, Greg Brady, faking UFOs?
I think you hurt MZ's feelings.
That's okay. He can take it. He's a big boy.
I'm a big boy. I got my big boy pants on. See? Can't you tell?
For a change.
No, there is part of this movie that is just unapologetic, Euro horror from that era.
Sure.
And then there's part of this movie that is just 70s horror from from America. And they do mesh well, but you need to like both of those genres for this movie to 100% work for you. So that is one of this movie's downfalls, where you need to like two different genres to 100% appreciate this movie.
You know what I love really about this movie, though? I mean, I think this is a great flick. The goddamn score. I think the score is absolutely pinpoint perfect.
Definitely.
It is. It just sends you down just a spiral of craziness, and almost like an LSD sort of trip. The way this music fits in with the visuals. One visual that I continuously get locked in my head is when I forget what it was, but it was like we're like going into the rabbit's hole, and it's like a purplish red sort of circular thing, and it just keeps going deeper and deeper, kind of like close. It's like a close up, but what it's doing is that it just keeps on going deeper and deeper and deeper into this supposed hole. Mm-hmm. And the score that's played for that is just magnificent. I just loved it, and that's from Cavern of Antimatter.
Yep.
Yes. And I've never heard of them before. Apparently, this is their first film. So
yeah, they're a 3-piece electronic band out of Germany. I looked them up when I discussed the film, and unfortunately, they don't have their Antrum tracks available. But some of their other stuff on their Bandcamp it's good stuff.
Yeah.
And
I was so impressed with the music.
And it has 2 members who used to play with Stereolab, if that's a band that some people might recognize. So So worth bringing up. But yeah, I agree. I think it was. I mean, it wasn't very I wouldn't say it's evocative of Goblin, but it almost had that same feel where it added so much to the visual that it had a very sort of very big impact. I'll say. Like I wouldn't even equate it to Goblin because it was totally different, but. I think that it was as impactful as some of the Goblin stuff. So I think it was really cool.
I mean,
I'm kind of get a Tangerine Dream vibe off of some of their stuff.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm looking on YouTube right now, and they got some of the soundtrack on there. So
yeah, you can get it off of there.
I'll listen to it at some point. But I was blown away by the soundtrack. One of the best soundtracks of the year, if you ask me. I thought it was fantastic.
And this has been
frustrations between. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say this has been a good year for soundtracks. I think for scores.
Oh, definitely. And frustrations between these two films that I really dug the scores, but I can't actually legally purchase them anywhere.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm checking to see if. Yeah, I looked on Apple Music, and I see some of their music, but I don't see the score for this, which is a shame. But they do have a couple albums on Apple Music, and I'm sure Spotify as well. So.
I'm sure some boutique label will put it out on vinyl someday.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. Let's head to the verdict on this one because I think we've talked about In Fabric as much as we can before we spoil anything. So let's head to the verdict.
Trick or treat, baby. I wonder if people would say you're a trick or a treat.
Trick or treat, motherfucker.
All right, verdict time. We're going to let you know whether In Fabric was a trick or treat and any final thoughts we may have. Let's kick things off with El Goro.
All right, well, it's obviously a treat for me. As I said, Strickland is one of those filmmakers that I just adore, and it's kind of a shame that he hasn't made as many films as I would like, but he seems to be a filmmaker that takes his time, and I certainly appreciate the effort that he puts into his films. From his command of visual language and most importantly, his ability to sort of ground his films in the familiar. You'll find that throughout his movies that he'll have these sort of recognizable characters that we can attach to, that we can empathize with, that we can understand. And that gives us an anchoring point to appreciate and kind of navigate the more surrealistic touches that he puts into his films, up until the point that things completely break apart, as he has a tendency to do with his movies. And best for me, he doesn't seem to simply rely upon aesthetics for aesthetics' sake. His films always have something deeper to say. Now, it might be obscured a little bit, but these are films that reward you for spending time trying to unpack the message behind them. And there is indeed a message behind a film like In Fabric that is rewarding to me to try to unravel. It's not an easy task, and again, I have zero animus and look down upon nobody for whom this film did not work for them. It just happens that it fits very well with my own personal aesthetics and some of the things that I find very rewarding about films. And as such, it's a tremendous treat for me.
All right, let's go to Raven Shadow.
Allow me to retort. No. Once again, I mentioned this. I was into this movie for the first hour. I was on board. I'm like, all right, this is gonna. I'm in it, and then it stopped working for me, and I kind of stopped caring. And once again, that's completely on me, where it just didn't work for me. So kind of like doing a counterpoint to what you were saying, Goro. Now, with that said, I'm not saying this is a bad film. I'm not going to shit on this film. I think that there are things that were great about it. It's just not for me. Now, and even down to Barbarian Sound Studio, as great as the soundbite is for the show, that wasn't for me either. I would still be interested in what this director does again. So, and I think oddly enough, it's actually a really good double feature with this and Antrum.
Yeah,
I think it.
I thought so too. It's weird you bring that up.
Whether it was planned or not, because it really seems fucking planned. and I do like the 70s aesthetic. But once again, it just didn't work for me. I do find the first story better than the groom to be. That's when it really put the brakes on for me. I fucking hated that bar scene. I hated everything about that bar scene with those fucking guys. And this is someone that hangs out with those kind of fucking guys in bars, and I hated everything about it. But I would say it's barely a trick because, once again, it's not the film's fault that I wasn't engaged, and I'm not going to shit on it, but it just wasn't for me. Pass.
Pass?
You know what I'm saying? Like,
you've been doing this for 7 years.
Well, he already said
he did,
but he didn't that's where you need to end.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm passing the baton. No, I said it was barely a trick. I'm not.
Yeah, and then you stop.
And then you said pass.
Yeah. When you say barely a trick, that's where you stop so Wolfie can go next. Like, don't ramble on and then go pass. That kind of throws the flow off.
Well, that's part of the game.
Aries, don't pick on him today, okay?
Oh, he's gotten over his thing, whatever
okay.
it was.
Okay, good.
I can see it. It's in his eyes. somewhere behind those tinted glasses.
But you can't. Yeah, but you can't see his
Johnny
eyes.
in front of El Goro.
All right.
Well, I'm sorry. Should we be dainty around El Goro?
I think everyone's fucking dainty around El Goro.
I've been listening to you guys for years, man. You couldn't be dainty if you tried. Yourselves.
All right, Aries, let's hear your verdict.
Oh, you know what? I'm fucking torn here because because I'm like teetering more towards Raven Shadow than El Goro.
Yeah.
And that fucking bothers the shit out of me.
Man.
It's fine.
Yeah, you need to get that checked out.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Come on, man. What the fuck?
Something's wrong.
MZ, touch Aries again.
No, as well, I'm just saying I swing more towards Raven Shadow. Now, I'm not backing him 100%. Maybe like 20. I don't know. Somewhere around there.
Give me like 40.
No, there is this, like El Goro said, this movie's not for everyone, and I am part of that not for everyone. There are aspects of this movie I like. There are aspects of this movie I did not like. The motherfucker. Oh,
what?
I'm sorry. MZ just farted and it was fucking wet.
Oh, God.
Wait. He said 1 or 2 weeks ago he never farts. You made that statement.
Then MZ just shit himself.
I've been sick.
I wasn't in a better mood now. I'm back to where I was before the show.
Well, at least he didn't shit in your toilet again, Raven Shadow.
I think he should have. You're gonna throw that chair out now.
He's gonna leave cave paintings in there. Jesus. We better end this before he has to go.
Oh my God! You're not getting in my. You have a trash bag you can wear because you're not getting in my truck.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
It's very
the main story of this, the whole Euro story, I did not care for because that's not something I care for. You know what? To be perfectly honest with you, I probably didn't understand it 100%, and that is more on me because I don't think if you were meant to understand it, you understood it. If you weren't, you weren't. The other stories, I liked it because it did have that. It was set in that era, but it 100% had the feeling of the 70s in that.
Yes.
The way the dress was, I loved that. I love that feeling of that. The way it looked, it brought me back. It did to that era, when I was that age, and this type of movie sent chills down my spine. It brought me back there, and I like this movie for that. So for that reason, I will give this movie a treat, but not the highest treat. This just is a treat for me.
How about temper treat?
I don't say that word. Fuck.
It's cut or dry with Aries. All right, MZ.
I'm really interested in seeing what Strickland does next, because this is only the second film I've seen of his, and while I enjoyed the appearance and his attention to detail on Giallo films in Barbarian Sound Studio, I didn't like the film ultimately. This is a different matter. This is a very good film. A very, very, very good film. The touches are all there, but it's not. It's just a very well done film. Very well done as far as the references to the style of Bava and Argento. And I want to check out that other one that he said. That other one that he did. That
Duke of Burgundy.
Back to Franco. Yeah, that calls back to Franco. I'd love to check that out. I think the performances are very well done. There's a lot of unsettling imagery. I think the score is fantastic. Probably my favorite score of the year. And I'm just really overwhelmed by the imagery and the beauty of this movie. I mean, it was just done with such a professional hand that just blows me away. I mean, there's touches of beauty, touches of just not full-blown terror, but I mean just uneasiness, much like the last film that we reviewed. What I really liked, I really liked the I don't know why, for some reason, but I thought the during the opening credits where we get to see scenes that are going to be happening later on in the film.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but for some reason I find that oddly entertaining for some reason.
And I was that too, which I mean, it's a little different how movies opened up back in the day too, as well. You'd see more like credits in the front.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, Strickland's got his own style, and this is not for everyone. This is for an acquired taste, and I'm glad and happy to say that I fit in that acquired taste. This is a very good movie. I really enjoyed it. I want to see it again, and I might even put this in my library somewhere. This is an excellent movie. This is a treat, big time treat.
All right, and for me, there's a lot of craft that goes into this, and obviously when we discussed Barbarian Sound Studios several years ago. I want to say it was 2014, maybe. So we're about 4 or 5 years ago is when we did it. So it's been a while, but I do remember the craft was very much on display, and Strickland is someone who certainly knows what he's doing, and I feel that he now is even. At least with this, I haven't seen all of his movies. I do want to check out Duke of Burgundy, but I feel that narratively he's able to sort of he's got a more deft hand when it comes to the narrative. And I feel mixing his technical ability and the visuals with a better narrative flow, I think, and a movie that has something to say, I think really kind of puts the pieces together. Now, I will say that there was some stuff in this that was a little jarring, and there was some stuff I didn't love as much as some other stuff, but I think as a whole, whenever they came back to the department store, I was just kind of in love with this. So, and I really love some of the stuff that they did, and this is another one that I think I do also want to revisit, because now that I look at the sum of all the parts, I want to go back and kind of pick up on some other things that I may not have noticed, or just take a look at it with a different eye now. But yeah, I think this is a really fun movie, and Peter Strickland is definitely showing off his ability, and I too am looking forward to whatever he does next, and I hope he continues to keep it fucking weird because I think his weird is, like I'd mentioned earlier with Forzani and Catet, the directors behind Strange Color of Your Body's Tears, and shit, what was we did it earlier this year. I can't remember the name of that other movie they did. They did Amer, and let me pick up the other one here. It was that Eurocrime movie.
Oh, yeah.
Let the Corpses Tan.
Let the Corpses Tan.
Yeah, thank you. Yep. So Let the Corpses Tan. So their style is definitely of the same influences or very similar influences, but I feel that Peter Strickland's is a little bit more digestible by a wider audience, and I think it's more approachable narratively as well. So I really enjoyed a lot about this movie, and I think after our discussion, I think there's more that I will pick up on it especially hearing some more of Goro's thoughts. I avoided listening to your episode, Goro, until I saw it, so now I'm going to go back and listen. But you did bring up some points that I hadn't really thought of, so I'm going to look at the film with different eyes again. And but I think there is a pretty good amount to unpack here, and there's some really cool and powerful scenes in this. So yeah, I'm going to say this is a treat for me. I really dug In Fabric, and I think once again this is something it's definitely not going to work for everybody, but I think that a lot of people, like I said, I think it's a more approachable than Forzani and Catet stuff. So I think that this is something that has a wider audience that will enjoy it. So if it sounds like something you're into, you like Euro horror, you like giallo, that style, I would definitely recommend checking out In Fabric. So there you have it. We wrap up our discussion of In Fabric and also Antrum. So December Cram Jam is going to roll on next week, and next week we're going to do 2 more new films. Actually, let me just make sure, because next week we're recording on a different day again because of Star Wars. So, and yes, both films will be out. So, first up, we're going to be doing the Soska Sisters remake of David Cronenberg's Rabid. So, this should be an interesting one. They've been sort of working on this, or at least it's been talked about for a while. And this also features, I don't think it stars, but it features CM Punk, who we had, obviously talked about, Girl on the Third Floor. And so I'm been curious about this one. So we'll check out Rabid from the Soska Sisters. I hope it's a kind of more back to their American Mary days and less of their WWE studios output because it wasn't very good. And we're going to follow it up with another film that I've heard a lot of good things about. It's been getting a lot of praise in festival run. Is a film called Daniel Isn't Real, directed by Adam Egypt Mortimer. And we've actually seen some films of his. He's actually starred... Was he? No, I might be thinking of someone else. I'm sorry. Yeah, I definitely am thinking of someone else because we haven't seen... I don't think we've seen anything he's done. So, but Daniel Isn't Real, and that is available... now on VOD, and Rabid will be available on the 13th. So starting, when the podcast releases, it'll be available. So that's our double feature Cram Jam for next week. Rabid and Daniel Isn't Real. If you want to go ahead, check them out. You want to leave your thoughts, send them to podcast@trickortreatradio.com. And we want to give a big thank you to our buddy El Goro for hanging out with us for both flicks and giving us some great insight and and some thoughts about these films.
It's absolutely my pleasure, man. I love talking to you guys.
Yeah, we love it too, man. And it's certainly something that it never happens often enough, but when it does, it's always a pleasure. And if folks out there haven't done so yet, what are you waiting for? Go check out El Goro and Talk Without Rhythm. And he has one of, for my money anyways, he's got one of the better Patreon feeds out there as well. So if you guys like your exclusive content, Goro is putting out a lot. We do our best, and we do the one a month. It's obviously harder now with the 2 studios, but Goro's putting out content all the time. So if you guys want to, go check out his Patreon as well. And anything else you want to plug, Goro? Anything else before we say goodbye?
No, that's just about it. If you want to hear my weekly thoughts on movies, it's at tworpodcast.blogspot.com, or you can just do a search for Talk Without Rhythm. And if you want to check out the Patreon, it's patreon.com/tworp. Now, despite what Wolfie says, my release schedule on there is not all that strong a lot of the times, but I'm going to be trying to make a better effort at filling that out. And you got a lot of content on there from the early days of Tworp, so you can check that out if you want. But if you've never listened to me before, check out the main podcast, see if it's something worth supporting first.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys also may have even heard El Goro do. You did an awesome commentary for John Carpenter's The Thing. You and Mike White from the projection booth. So
and Patrick Bromley from F This Movie.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, forgot to mention Patrick, but yes.
I just got to make sure he gets in there.
Absolutely. So if, it's possible you guys have heard that. If you haven't, go check it out. Which release was that? Was that the Arrow release?
Yeah, that was the Arrow release. So it is a Region B. So you wouldn't be able to get a hold of it unless you're European or got a region-free player. But these days, everybody should have a region-free player. There's so much good shit coming out overseas that doesn't always make it over here in Fabric.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, El Goro, we appreciate you coming on. We appreciate your insight, my friend. And I hopefully, I'll be seeing you in a couple weeks. I'm looking forward to that.
See you then, brother.
All right, take care, buddy.
Adios.
Later, dude.
All right. Big thanks to El Goro for coming and hanging out and talking some movies. Always love hearing that guy's insight on films. Now we got some voice messages to get to, and one of them is a little long. Raven Shaw, if you're looking for another break, I don't want to recommend you take a break while this guy's talking, but he does. He's catching up on a lot of films, and that would be our boy Arkham Josh.
Hey, Trick or Treat Radio guys, it's Arkham Josh here. Just giving a call in, trying to catch up on some of the past couple of weeks. Catch up on last week's, so Ready or Not. I too had unfortunately missed this in its theatrical run. I wanted to see it, but just didn't get a chance to go do so. So I was real happy when this opportunity came along, and I loved it. I thought it was a ton of fun. I don't know, it was kind of exactly what I expected it was going to be, I guess. It was funny, it was exciting, it was tense. So it was a lot of fun. It had some good effects, both practical and CG. The characters were good, so I really enjoyed this. I think the radio silence guys kind of knocked it out of the park. Even I'm kind of a little more bummed that I missed it in the theater, so I'm hoping that it did well enough where they will get a chance to do more maker films like this. So Ready or Not, I am going to say treat and a recommend. Next up, Tigers Are Not Afraid. Tigers Are Not Afraid is a tough film, because I'm going to say up front, I do like it. But it doesn't fully work for me. I think the movie looks good. I think it's very interesting. I think the cast is good, especially since the kids were non-actors. But the fairy tale element just didn't hook me on this. I kind of think that if you took that aspect of it out, it wouldn't really change much of the film. I think the story of the kids worked. I think even the kind of haunting of the girl, and her mother kind of worked. But it was just those few flourishes of the fairy tale aspect. They just didn't gel for me. And I am going to say Trick or Treat, and especially if you have Shudder, I'd say it's a recommend. You might as well watch it. If you want to hear a little bit more of an in-depth discussion of my thoughts on that, check out last week's episode of Outside the Cinema, because I was a guest on the show last week, and we covered Tigers Are Not Afraid and Necrotronic. So you can get a little bit more on that. But yeah, like I'd say, I would say Trick or Treat and a so-so recommend on Tigers Are Not Afraid. Also, I acknowledge on OTC that and we'll reiterate here, that a lot of the hype for Tigers Are Not Afraid was coming out of the film festivals, and I really do think that the mood and feeling of this film, it probably would have all worked a little bit better for me if I had seen it in a theater. So I think it kind of lost a little bit there by the home viewing. But also, director Issa Lopez apparently has an untitled werewolf western in pre-production. That I'm really looking forward to. All right, so on to this week's films. I'm going to jump right on into Antrum. Antrum was something I had heard of coming out of festivals. I was really curious, but also kind of hesitant. Because this is the kind of concept that can either be really cool or could just come off as really goofy and hackneyed. I think they pulled it off, though. I think there was enough of the interviews up front that set it up well, and the quote-unquote movie itself was weird enough that you could think that there was maybe more going on than there was. It was definitely one of those things where it wasn't a case of like the payoff didn't deserve the setup. It definitely worked. I would definitely like to see it again. I had some very minor nitpicky things, but I think those are just kind of things that only would bother people like me. Did anybody else notice that in the discussion of the Soul film print that was found at the estate in Connecticut, that when they were supposedly, handling and showing you the film, that it was on 2 different types of 16mm film stock? The first time you see it, it's actually a double-sided perforation, which is only used for silent film because that doesn't leave room for a soundtrack. And then the other times that they show them inspecting it, they show it on a more traditional single-sided perforation 16mm film. I thought that was a little dumb. That was a really simple and obvious mistake that they made. I don't know. I'm not sure what was going on. The only thing to me that why they would have had a double perf was if they had the negative, but they never said they had the negative. They said they had the single print. But hey, I guess only super film nerds will notice that. But then again, super film nerds are kind of the main audience they're going for with a movie like this. So I don't know. It seems like this was I think it might be a first feature by these 2 filmmakers. And I give them an awful lot of credit for kind of doing this high concept thing and pulling it off. And like I said, it definitely works. Antrum, the deadliest film ever made, that is also a treat and a recommend. Because I also know probably a lot of people won't be as picky about those little things as I am. But definitely worthwhile. And next is In Fabric. In Fabric was another film that I had really been looking forward to. I like Peter Strickland's work. The one minor disappointment to me is that In Fabric has been playing about 10 minutes from my house for the past week, and I just have not been able to get out and go see it. I was hoping to be able to get out tonight and catch a 7 o'clock and then do this call-in right after, but I wasn't able to do that. But I did, hop on the Plex and check it. So, alright. In Fabric, stylistically, it's great. The acting is great. It looks great. The story is very interesting. It has this one period where it kind of has this real dip and lull in it, where I'd say about 2/3 of the way through, it's got this weird dip for me. There was a main story that we were following that was very compelling. Then it switches to a slightly confusing and less compelling story, but then has a very big climax. I don't know, it seems like a weird, structure to tell this story. But overall, I liked it a lot. The look of the film is just fantastic. The set design was great, everything. So I'm going to give In Fabric a treat and a recommend. And I'm definitely going to try to see it again at some point with the hopes that I don't have that same kind of lull and momentary loss of interest Maybe it'll work a little better for me on a rewatch. I'm not sure. But I did really like what I saw. So I did treat and recommend. So, I don't know. I'm interested to hear what you guys thought. I'm going a bit long on this message. I'm sorry. But I had 4 films to catch up on. So, alright, hey. You guys all have a good one. We're coming up on the holidays. I hope you guys all have a great holidays. And hopefully I'll talk to you guys soon, all right? Bye-bye.
All right, Josh. Thanks, buddy. And glad to hear you catch up on some of those films and like to hear your thoughts. And, yeah, I saw that you had guested on OTC. I think it was your first time there in a while, so I'll have to check that out. And it was 2 films that we've talked about, so I'd love to hear you and Bill's thoughts. So thanks, Josh. Good to hear from you, buddy, and happy holidays to you as well if we don't hear from you before then. All right, we got 2 more voicemail, and this is from First Time Mike.
What's up, Trick or Treat family? This is First Time Mike. How's everybody doing?
Good, buddy.
Nothing much tonight. I do have a holiday question for you. For this time of year, this gift-giving season, what toy that you do not have now that you had as a kid would you really want to have? And I'm just curious what you guys have. For me, I had a Shogun Warriors Godzilla, which was awesome. I could pretend I was blowing up cities with it. I could shoot the Godzilla fist until I almost got in trouble for knocking over a lamp that didn't break, but I kind of got scolded for that one, so I was a lot more careful with the Godzilla firing fist. And I love that thing, and I don't know what happened to it. And the other thing is I had a bunch of the LJN Advanced Dungeons & Dragons action figures, and I know what happened to those because my step-cousins, my mom let my step-cousins take a couple of them, and I'm like, well, I had all the weapons for them, and I still play with them, and she said, well, you have plenty of toys, and, well, I heard that they pretty much destroyed them, which I was disappointed at, and I pointed out the price that they're worth, that some of them are worth now, and she did apologize for it. But what's your favorite toy that you had as a kid that you don't have now? This is First Time Mike. Busy in the holiday season right now. Work's starting to get a little crazy. Wishing you all the best and good night. Bye.
All right, First Time Mike. That's a great question. Do any of you guys know the answer right off the bat?
USS Flag.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. You had that?
I had that motherfucker.
Oh, man.
That shit sat in my parents' living room for a year.
That was one of the ones that, like, I was more into Star Wars toys, but that was one of the ones that I like really wanted, and I, because I had a bunch of G.I. Joe, but that was the one I really wanted, and I just never got.
Oh yeah, I was G.I. Joe all day long. I had everything, and I got that shit for Christmas that year.
You got the U.S.
I got Flag. Oh yeah, and I remember
too bad
my
you still
father
don't
wanted
have
to put
it.
Oh my god, that shit's worth some money now. I bet.
Yeah.
My father wanted to
you
put
didn't
that
fucking
together
know.
on the dining room table, thinking that it could be built and then moved. He had no idea that where you built it is where it stayed, because my mother convinced him to build it on the floor, and that shit sat in the living room for a year before we managed to get on a piece of plywood and get it to the basement.
Yeah, that thing was huge.
Yes,
That's
and expensive. 6 foot long.
It's a super sore subject because I also had the Flag, and it was at my grandparents' house, and same thing. It was ended up built in the living room. It got transported to a different bedroom, and my grandparents' house at that time was kind of almost like the Avengers Mansion, where people would kind of come and go in various bedrooms, and for a while it could be there, but then someone else kind of came in and crashed there, and it ended up maybe in its original box, but when my grandfather passed, who knows where it happened, but it got I don't know where it is, and now it's up the ante. I also had the Terradrome, which is also down there, and I don't know where that is. And to one more, I also had the Defiant, the space shuttle.
Oh, I didn't have that.
Which was in my parents' basement. And I maybe said the story a couple of years back. It was probably at least over 10 years ago when my parents had a big flood, and it got That's the only thing in the basement that was mine. Granted, my dad had 2 fucking Harley Davidsons that was on the fucking water.
And you were crying about your toy.
Yeah, well, no. And my dad took his bikes apart piece by piece and blew them out, and they still fucking ride. But the Defiant was out there, and at that time I was like, you know what? I gotta move on. I'm not gonna take this in. And even underwater dried, the Defiant is still worth crazy money. And even down
Raven Chow, on eBay used $650.
Yeah. And I walked away from that. And even this pieces of the flag, like the flag on the flag, like the American flag on the flag is probably worth $30 online. And I cannot watch those fucking toys that made us because I had all those fucking things. And I got every fucking Joe, most of the vehicles still. But yeah, the flag was something, and yeah, if we.
I'm looking at the flag right now on eBay, and the highest that it's going for is one that's still in its original case, unopened, graded with a 75 out of 100, and it's unopened, and there's this person here looking to get $9,500 for it.
Holy shit!
Well, you know what? I played the shit out of mine. So
yeah.
Well, you know what? Even if you did, you probably still could get in $100 for it, maybe more.
There's one used for $625 with $200 shipping.
Yeah,
wow.
Because that is a fucking beast. Jesus.
I do still have Admiral Keelhaul, the figure that came with it. It should have came like 6 figures.
Yeah.
But yeah, that it so fucking pains me because like I fucking had that.
Oh
Defiant or Drome. Yep.
How about
bad
question? Yeah, bad question. How about you, MZ?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, as far as collectability goes, I wish I could get back my. I can remember getting for Christmas Transformers Dirge and Transformers Starscream.
Yep.
So I wish I could get those back. That'd be nice.
Why don't you come to the shop? There's a fucking Dirge bust you can get for $30.
Yeah, I've seen it, and it's been there for years.
Why don't you buy it?
But you know what? It's not the same as owning the original thing.
Yeah.
I mean, because you know what? My first Transformer I ever got was Optimus Prime, and I fucking love that. But I would never go out and buy because you know what? It's not the same thing.
Yeah, those are kitsch items, and I'm not into that.
All right, well, go fuck yourself.
Well, as soon as you get in some actual Transformers, then yeah, I will be in and I will buy.
No, my first Transformer was Blue Streak, even though he was gray. Always drew me off.
No, that's true. That's true, and there's a good reason for that. Too long of a story to tell you.
I'm fucking fascinated, but yeah, so we got to come back to that.
Yeah, come back next week and find out why.
But LJ Figures Blank. I'm sorry, Johnny. I did love my was it Strongheart? He was the dude that was in all gray. He had like the blue cape, and I loved him. And I had the villain that was like the D&D Deathstroke. He had like the big like blue helmet and like the blue scale pants, but yet one half was also he wore shorts, so it was like legs and armor. You know what I'm talking about?
Nope, no
he
clue.
Had the blue helmet, and you couldn't see his face. He actually look kind of like DC's Ares, if you will.
What do we? I don't even know what we're talking about right now.
Toys.
I know toys, but like
there was a D&D line of action figures that came out.
Yeah, I have no clue. Yeah, I never saw any D&D action figures.
It was the same fucking aisle as G.I. Joe.
Okay, I was tunnel vision.
Yeah, if you were in there for G.I. Joe, you're not going to be looking for.
I had no clue D&D action figures existed.
Johnny, in Toys R Us back in the day, there were 2 aisles that was the main event aisle. There was the aisle that had, your Star Wars, G.I. Joe, Superpowers, Secret Wars, and all your boys' toys. And there was an aisle to the left that had like
the D&D. What? Like,
well, yeah, and it was like not the right main event, but there was 2 aisles in Toys R Us that was like the shit aisles.
I didn't go in those aisles. I'm sorry. You're looking at me for like I was like, I'm sorry, I can't help you.
We're the same fucking.
I know. I was like 80% G.I. Joe, and then 20% Star Wars. I don't know what else you got. I got like
Johnny
throwing a little Transformers and He-Man.
Why you keep calling my? Why are you invoking my name?
Because
why do you always look to him for help?
Because he's fucking the producer.
He's gonna like correct the fact that I was only interested in certain things as a child.
Tell you what, I'll produce the show. Okay?
No, don't do that.
I'll produce the show. All right.
Kick farts and fucking
I'll
jean
produce the
shorts.
show. I'll take over. I'm taking over the show right now. All right.
Yeah.
I'm taking over the show right now.
Please,
In
please
fact,
do.
He's gonna end it.
I'm gonna take the.
He's gonna end it.
That's right. I'm gonna take over the show right now, and I'm gonna end it right here, right now.
No. You can't do that.
No,
you can't.
Wait,
Because,
I'm the producer. I'm the producer.
You're not. Johnny,
You can't say anything.
what is your toy? I want to hear Johnny's toy. We've been rambling on.
Yeah.
No, I'm the producer. I'll let him know. Now, from now on, it's no longer Trick or Treat Radio. This is no longer Trick or Treat Radio.
Your mic
This
off.
is no longer Trick or Treat Radio. From now on, we're going to call this 3 Below Zero. Okay, and it's gonna have you three guys. Okay, I'm gonna host the show.
blowing you.
I'm gonna host this. I'm gonna host the show, and your three guys are gonna be on it. But you're gonna do what I tell you from now on. Okay.
Let me know how that works out for you.
I will.
Yeah.
I'm selling the house.
Is this his like fantasy? Is this your power fantasy here?
Oh yeah. This is my real fantasy.
He's had 3 Below Zero in his head for so long.
Oh yeah.
That's his.
No, actually, I just came up with.
He's been spanking it to that term for months.
Kind of like that. Kind of like that scene in Fabric.
Yeah. It all ties into the fucking Peter North stuff, the me washing dishes, and now us under the table. This is fucking weird.
Yeah, it is weird. And then don't forget the Xenomorph mug.
Yeah.
That ties into washing the dishes thing.
So weird.
All right, well, let me give mine
John,
so we can wrap this
in
fucking
action.
shit up, producer. This is actually a tough one because I don't know which. I had a pretty good amount, but there's a lot that I didn't get that I wanted. But I'm gonna go with, because I always wanted the Death Star. I didn't have the Death Star. I'm going to go with my Sandcrawler, my Jawa Sandcrawler. Because I remember playing the shit out of that thing. And, like, bits were, like, falling off and didn't work anymore. Like, that little elevator that you could, raise the characters up into the Sandcrawler. So I would probably say that. And I know my brother had the Ewok Village, which I didn't covet as much, but I thought was a pretty cool, set. Yeah. So I'm trying to remember. I also had Hoth, but that was like a kind of a small little one.
I had Hoth. I liked Hoth.
Hoth was great. Battle stations and stuff.
You can launch the guys.
Yeah.
But I guess I'll just stick with that, and I'll go with the Sandcrawler. The funny thing is, I still have my Millennium Falcon, but it's in fucking shambles. it's in rough shape.
Somewhere at my parents' house, I have a Millennium Falcon that has no extra pieces. Like it is like everything that you could snap onto it is gone.
Actually, I think it's behind you guys.
It's actually here.
Yeah,
I have your Millennium Falcon.
Yeah,
holding it for you.
It's in rough shape.
Mention of toys that I never was able to get. There were 2. One was my Major White Whale. And it's small, but the way figures were produced back then, I've always wanted the Cyborg figure from the Superpowers line. And I could never get Cyborg. I looked at fucking toy stores fucking 5 years after the line ended. That, and there was a mail-away Clark Kent figure you could get.
Oh, yeah.
That I was never able to send in my proofs of purchase or whatever the fuck. But yeah, that sucked.
Yeah.
Thanks for.
Yeah, thanks for time, Mike. I'm sure there's lots of others too, but we'll end it there. And we got one more voice message, and this is actually from last week. I forgot to play this one last week, so I apologize for that. But it's called Sanford and Raven Shadow.
Hey, Woofy. So the Speak Pipe app, it cuts off after a minute. Oh man, that's a bummer. I had more to say, man. God darn it. Well, what I really wanted to speak on is I got the Disney Plus, and I was trying to stream Pollyanna and some fucking Davy Crockett movies, but it won't fucking play. I don't know what I can hear the audio, but the fucking picture is all scrambled up like I'm fucking stuck in 1990s watching porn in my grandma's basement and shit. What the hell? Nice. Fucking Walt Disney ripped my ass off, man. Can you believe it? Son of a bitch. Fuck. Man. Hey, is it just me or Raven Shadow sounds like the Italian version of the Italian version of Red Fox? Picture that, does he not? Oh my god, he sounds.
I'll believe you, big dummy.
Oh, well, thank you, Gene Siskel's balding hat. I don't know. SpeakPipe should have a 3-minute time limit. I'm not sure why it's got the 1. I'll look into it, but oh man, good to hear from that dude again. So,
I love him so.
Yeah, you do. You love him?
Yeah, long time.
All right, so we're going to wind things down here, but next week, as I mentioned, will be on Tuesday night because Rise of Skywalker is coming on next Thursday, and I bought tickets like 2 months ago. So we'll be doing Tuesday night, and I think the rest of the December episodes will just be normal on Thursday. Yeah, because the 26th, it's the night before Raven Shell's birthday. We're going to have a party?
Celebration. I'm as of now, I'm scheduled off on that Friday.
I hope so.
So bring your sleeping bags over when you get fucked up, absent. And,
you better find your own ride here that night, MZ.
Oh, yeah. Are you off Aries on Friday?
I'm off every fucking Friday. I got so much time I got to burn.
Stay over. We'll get fucked up and watch a movie.
Stay over. So you can pass out 10 minutes in?
Interpretation. He falls asleep a half hour into a movie.
No, I'll fucking get some stuff to give me a... I don't know, but what happens? But
we don't need any evidence for the prosecution. Keep your mouth shut right now.
Yeah, the prostitution rests.
All right, so yes, we will be live for the next episode. Episode, oh my God, 386 will be on Tuesday, December 17th, and we're going to be doing Rabid, and we're going to be doing Daniel Isn't Real. So if you want to hang out, check those out. Come join us. And let's go around the room and say our goodbyes. MZ.
Arrivederci, douchebags.
Aries.
Goodbye.
Raven Shadow.
I don't know what that little inflection you did, but it made me laugh.
Douchebag.
You're far too trusting.
I love how you were just completely checked out until that point. Phone. Arrivederci, douchebags. Phone.
Fuck.
I was posting something very important.
Live fast, love hard, die with your mask on.
Posting something very important, I'm sure.
It's highly
yeah. All right, well, that is going to do it for episode 385. Big thanks to our buddy El Goro for coming out, hanging out with us, classing up the joint a little bit, giving some real smart thoughts on the films. And
wait. Slow down. Not classing up the joint a little bit. Classing up the joint a fucking lot.
Yeah. Fair. MZ drags it way down, so...
Can he come on next week?
What?
Can he come on next week?
In your place?
Fuck you guys, I'm jumping ship. I'm going to go on his show.
Hey. Oh, man. That's once again, Hobbs and Shaw knock him out the box. I want Aries and Goro.
Aries and Goro, yeah. That would be good.
And this is our first guest in the new studios.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's right. I figured that if we're gonna invite someone as our first guest, he's probably the best person to get in because he's a professional. So, no problems with anything tonight. So everything went smooth. So yeah, it's good. We'll get more guests on. It was just kind of rough going once the studio moved and getting everything all squared away. So with all that is going to do it for this episode, and we will see you guys next week. And we're talking about Rabbit and Daniel Isn't Real. So come back, hang out with us, and whatever the fuck. See you.